Lin Jixia said she had been bound to a top student system that would only let her survive if her grades surpassed mine, and begged me to give up the college entrance exam in my last life. I refused. After the college entrance exam, she faked her death and vanished. Everyone thought I had driven her to the brink. My classmates, teachers, and even my boyfriend, Lucia, all vouched for the class belle. And the internet came down on me in a wave of vicious online abuse. They called me a murderer. In the end, one of Lin Jixia's simps stabbed me straight through the heart. My parents wanted to fight for justice for me, but Lucia plotted to have them killed. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in my senior year classroom. Lin Jixia looked down at me and said, "Suan, I hope you'll give up on taking the college entrance exam." Suan, I hope you'll give up on taking the college entrance exam, Lin Jixia said. Looking down at me, I lifted my head and met her gaze, my eyes flying wide open as my voice shot up. "What, you want me to give up taking the college entrance exam?" My outburst caused an uproar. Everyone around us, those chatting, doing problems, or dozing off, turned to look, their eyes all landing on the two of us. Lin Jixia didn't panic. Her eyes were rimmed red, tears brimming in them. I've been bound to the top student system. It says my grades have to surpass yours if I want to survive. If my Gaokao score is lower than yours, she didn't finish before. Tears were already streaming down her cheeks. A collective gasp swept through the classroom. I stared at her exquisitely beautiful face, flawless to a fault, and all the scenes from my past life surged through my mind. When that thug she fawned over stabbed me to death, she stood 3 meters away, smiling as she watched me collapse. But now wasn't the time to turn against her. I blinked and said earnestly, "No, Jixia, even if what you're saying is true, there's no reason I should give up taking the college entrance exam, right?" She froze slightly. "Look, you said I have to score higher than you to survive, right? Then wouldn't it be enough if I just scored lower than you? If I get a score a little below yours and you go ahead of me, then I get to live, don't I?" The few classmates around them heard this and all nodded. "Exactly," Lu Min in the front row said as she turned around. "Suan makes sense. You just need to beat her. And that's it. Why make her give up the college entrance exam?" "Yeah, exactly. Suwon's grades were already good, but you're impressive too, Jixia. You're both top 10 in the grade. Even if Suwon scores a little lower than you, she can still get into a good university. It wouldn't affect anything. Yeah, wouldn't beating her by just 3 or 5 points be enough?" Lin Jixia's score had never dropped below 650. She was widely known as the school's top academic goddess. Even if I deliberately scored a little lower, I could still get into a top university. It's a win-win for everyone. Why should either side have to give something up, too? Feng Qing hurriedly grabbed my hand. "Suan, are you really going to give up such a bright future for something this vague and illusory?" As soon as she finished speaking, the class monitor also stood up. "Yeah," the class monitor said, pushing up his glasses and frowning at Lin Jixia. "A system? That sounds way too far-fetched, Jixia. How are you so sure you're bound to one? Do you have any proof?" Everyone in the classroom turned their attention to Lin Jixia again. She didn't answer. Those tear-bright eyes passed over me and fixed straight on Lucia in the back row. Lucia was my boyfriend, the second highest scorer in the grade, captain of the school basketball team, and the girl's ideal crush even in a school uniform. She looked like she was walking a runway. Her smile was gentle and warm, her voice always soft and low. And she never got into conflict with anyone. In my previous life, I thought he really loved me until he pushed my parents down the stairs. Lin Jixia just stood there looking at Lucia, tears falling one after another. "Lucia," she called softly. Lucia frowned slightly, then stood up. He looked at me, his eyes carrying a hint of apology and gravity. "I can prove it." "What? Lucia, you knew about this. Wait, what exactly is going on?" Lucia raised a hand, signaling everyone to quiet down. On the day last month's exam results came out, Suwon's overall score was higher than Lin Jixia's. The entire room fell silent. The moment the report cards were posted that day, Lin Jixia suddenly went deathly pale, stiffened, and fell straight backward, fainting on the spot. Lucia was the quickest to react. He dashed over in one stride, picked her up, and ran all the way to the infirmary. The whole class knew about it. Back then, I told Suwon that Jixia had low blood sugar. Lucia looked at me, a trace of guilt in his voice, but that wasn't what actually happened. Feng Qing turned around and glared at Lucia. "What is that?" Lucia took a deep breath. He looked at Lin Jixia, and Lin Jixia gave him a slight shake of her head, but Lucia still turned back, his voice firm. "That day in the infirmary, after Jixia woke up, I heard her talking to the system. Because Suwon had outperformed her, the punishment was electric shock. I heard that cold electronic voice myself." Feng Qing's face went bright red with anger. "Whose boyfriend are you, anyway? Why are you siding with the class beauty?" Lucia looked righteous and indignant. "Precisely because I'm Suwon's boyfriend. I'm even less likely to lie." When he said that, he was looking at me. His gaze was full of tenderness and concern. In my previous life, I was completely fooled by that look. Feng Qing was shaking with anger. I patted the back of her hand, signaling her to calm down. "Then why did you tell me that Jixia had low blood sugar?" Lucia let out a sigh, and it carried both tenderness and Helplessness, he glanced at Lin Jixia, who lowered her head as tears dripped one after another onto her school uniform. That's because Jixia has a kind heart. She didn't want you to feel guilty after learning the truth. If she told you she fainted because you scored higher than her, how would you feel? So she asked me to keep it from you and just say it was low blood sugar. He paused, his voice turning grave. But now, the Gaokao is no longer just a simple punishment. The system said that if Jixia's Gaokao score can't surpass yours, she won't just be electrocuted, she'll die. Lin Jixia stood frozen in place, tears streaming silently down her face. 3. Suan, after all, it's a human life we're talking about. The college entrance exam comes around every year, but you only have one life. Just help her this once. Your grades are already solid, and you'll definitely be fine if you take the exam again next year. Yeah. You're the nicest person around. You wouldn't just stand by and do nothing, would you? Fan Qing gripped my hand tightly, wanting to speak up for me, but Lu Min beside her cut her off. Feng Qing, don't make this any messier. This is a matter of life and death. I stood up. But what did I do wrong? I looked at the classmates who were still trying to talk me out of it. What I'm giving up is my future. The class beauty's life is important, so she should be working to improve her own grades through her own effort. Why should I make way for her? A few of the classmates stiffened. I turned to look at Lucie, then at the few top students sitting in the back rows. Besides, even if I give up the college entrance exam, there's still my boyfriend, Lucie. He's second in the grade. Even if the class beauty surpasses me, can she surpass Lucie? She still won't be able to become the top scorer. Lucie's brow twitched slightly. Are you seriously saying that my boyfriend, me, and everyone in our grade who scores better than the class beauty should all give up the college entrance exam just to save one life of hers? No one said a word. The people who had just been trying to talk me into it were now exchanging awkward glances. Lin Jixia had never been competing against just me alone. There are at least 7 or 8 people in the grade who are better than her. Even if I step aside, how is she supposed to outrank those 7 or 8? Besides, Lin Jixia's academic performance isn't really her own. The so-called top student goddess, the top 10 in the grade, all those halo effects are fake ever since freshman year. Lucie has been helping her cheat on every major and minor exam, passing notes, altering answer sheets, even sneaking out exam papers early. They worked together so seamlessly that they fooled every teacher and classmate. That was also why Lin Jixia had faked her death in her previous life. What's all the noise? Your class is the loudest in the whole building. The dean, Wang Jiangwo, stood at the door, his square face clouded with displeasure. I could hear your class making a racket from downstairs. What's going on? Who's going to explain? I wasn't flustered, Mr. Wang. Lin Jixia says she's bound to a top student system, and the system requires her college entrance exam score to beat mine, or she'll die. So everyone is trying to talk me into giving up the exam and letting her have the chance. Wang Jiangwo's face darkened. Suan, how can you be so heartless? My fingers tightened slightly. What you're giving up is only the college entrance exam, Wang Jiangwo said, pointing at Lin Jixia, his tone growing harsher. But Lin Jixia lost a life. The exam comes around every year. What's so bad about repeating a year, trading 1 year for a human life? Can't you figure out that math? In my previous life, he was the same way. When I was being attacked online, he publicly criticized me at the school assembly for lacking basic compassion. He never asked a single question about the system, never verified any evidence, and just like that, he labeled me without hesitation. What's more, he also had a hand in helping the class beauty steal the exam papers, because he was her lover, Mr. Wang. Even if I give up the college entrance exam, the class beauty still can't place first. She'd still be dead. Wang Jiangwo froze. If the top 2 in the grade don't take the exam, there are still 3rd place, 4th place, and 5th place. The class beauty is currently ranked 7th in the grade, and there are 6 people ahead of her. Even if Lucie and I both give up, as long as she can't surpass those 6, the system will still take her life. Are you saying the top 6 in the whole grade should all give up the college entrance exam to save her? A low buzz of discussion rose in the classroom. Wang Jiangwo's expression darkened. Before he could say anything, Lin Jixia said tearfully to him, Mr. Wang, it's not like that. She lifted her tear-filled eyes and looked at me, then explained to everyone. The system is bound to Suan alone. All I need is to score higher than Suan. Everyone else isn't part of the system's requirements. Wang Jiangwo's expression eased considerably. Suan, you heard her. The system is only targeting you two, you and Jixia. If you give up alone, you can save her life. No one else needs to give anything up. He paused, then added earnestly, a life in exchange for starting college a year later. Think it over. For my eyes slowly turned red. But the college entrance exam is my whole life, Mr. Wang, and you all know this. Didn't the school promise that if someone tops the exam, they'd be rewarded with 200,000 yuan? I wiped away my tears with the back of my hand, my voice choked with emotion. My mom is sick, you all know that. Her surgery costs exactly 200,000 yuan. I studied like my life depended on it. Not for some top student title. I just wanted to use that money to pay for my mom's surgery. Big tears kept falling from my eyes, and my shoulders shook. Feng Qing put an arm around my shoulders, Suwon. The people in the classroom who had just been trying to talk me out of it were all silent now. Lin Jixia clearly hadn't expected me to pull something like this. She didn't know whether to keep crying or stop. Lucy, I said. Suwon, I understand how you feel, but, he paused, as if choosing his words, your mother's surgery may not be successful. The doctor said there are risks, right? Lucy's tone was very sincere. Even if this surgery is successful, your mother will still have to take medication for the rest of her life, and it will keep costing money. This isn't just a matter of 200,000 yuan, it's a bottomless pit. Lucy, I never took his eyes off me, his gaze both affectionate and rational. But if you give up the college entrance exam, you'll be saving the class belle's life, no risk, and no follow-up treatment needed. He took a deep breath. Besides, your mother knows that her life can be exchanged for one that's fresher, younger, and more vibrant. She would definitely be willing. Hearing him say that, I raised my hand in fury and slapped him across the face. Lucy's head was knocked to one side. He stood frozen in place, his eyes widening in disbelief. That's my mom, Lucy. If it were your mom, would you choose to save a classmate and let your own mom die? Lucy covered half his face. His expression shifted from shock to humiliation. Clenching his teeth, he said through a tight throat, if it were me, I'd be willing. Really? I wiped the tears off my face. That's perfect. I heard your mom's been taking odd jobs outside to save up 200,000 yuan for your tuition and startup fund. Lucy, I froze. Money can't be worth more than a life, right? Give me that 200,000 yuan, and I'll use it to get my mom's surgery. I'll give up the college entrance exam and save her life. 2 birds with 1 stone, 2 lives saved. Isn't that great? Lucy, I blurted out. That's 200,000 yuan, money my mom worked so hard to earn. Why should I give it to you? Lucy's family wasn't well off either. 200,000 yuan was their entire savings. The moment those words were out, the whole classroom seemed to change. As soon as he said it, Lucy, I realized he'd misspoken. A flash of panic crossed his face, and he forced a smile at the corners of his mouth. I mean, even if I'm willing, my mom wouldn't agree. It's my mom's money, not mine, so I don't get to make that decision. The more he tried to explain, the more flustered he became, and the composed expression he'd always worn finally began to crack. I looked at him and slowly nodded. You're right, so even if I agreed not to take the college entrance exam, my parents still wouldn't agree. They've supported my education for 12 years, all in the hope that I'd get into college and change this family's fate. I have no right to make that decision for them, just as Lucy has no right to make it for his mother. Lucy's expression changed again and again. He looked at me with disappointment in his eyes, his voice low and aching. Suwon, when did you become so cold and heartless? I looked at the betrayed look on his face and almost laughed again. I threw his own words right back at him. When did you get so heartless? We only need 200,000 yuan, and that would save both my mom's life and Lin Jixia's. What? Now that it's your money, it's suddenly different. Feng Qing, standing beside me, finally couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Sorry. It's just that some people really are great at being generous with what isn't theirs. They can talk endlessly about sacrificing someone else's mother, but when it comes to paying out of their own pocket, they wouldn't even part with a single cent. She looked at Lucia and added with a smile, Lucia, your so understanding and considerate persona is officially cemented today. Lucy's face darkened completely. 200,000, I'll bid. Everyone turned to look toward the back row. The boy who was speaking leaned back in his chair, his school uniform zipper pulled all the way down, revealing a black t-shirt underneath. His hair was slightly long, brushing over half of his brow bone. His features were sharp and cold, with a brooding air. Shindu, the school bully, was the illegitimate son of the wealthy Shin family, and his background was no secret at school. His mother had once worked as a maid for the Shin family. After seducing the master of the house, she was thrown out and raised him alone in an urban village. Mr. Shin took him back in when he was in middle school and gave him a place in the family, but Mrs. Shin and the legitimate young master never treated him well. He had money, but he wasn't favored. In my previous life, he was the one who stabbed me to death. As the knife went into my body, he kept muttering, you killed her. I went rigid all over, my fingers curling unconsciously around the hem of my school uniform. Shindu's face loomed larger in front of me, those eyes beneath his brow staring straight through me like knives. The way he glared at me was exactly the same as when he stabbed me in my previous life. I shuddered, my voice trembling. It's not that I don't want to save the class beauty. The thing is, my mom is also waiting for money to save her life. If I gave up my mom's surgery to save a classmate instead, I'd be a real monster. Tears welled up in my eyes again. Shin Buting's cold, rigid expression softened a little, and the corners of his mouth pressed together slightly because his mother was his Achilles heel. He nodded. A crow feeds its mother in return. You're a filial son. He pulled a card from his school uniform pocket and held it out to me. 300,000. That should be enough for your mom's surgery. 300,000. Shindu, are you crazy? Damn. So the school bully is actually this rich. Shindu, Lin Jixia said sweetly and softly. You're so good to me. Lin Jixia looked at Shindu with a tender, affectionate gaze, her eyes slightly red. and her lips lightly pressed together, looking every bit the love-struck girl. I took the card, then I turned around again and looked at Lucia with tears in my eyes. Lucia, you're supposed to be my boyfriend. Why have you been defending the class beauty all day today? Lucy's expression changed slightly. Shindu was staring him down with a dangerous look in his eyes, feeling the pressure. Lucia forced an innocent, wry smile and spread his hands. Suwon, it's not because she's the class beauty. It's because this is a human life. Even if someone else had been bound to the system today, I'd still speak up for them. I looked at his open, upright expression and slowly nodded. Then tell me, the person you like, has it always been me? Lucia didn't hesitate at all. Of course. I lowered my head, my fingers twisting the hem of my school uniform. Then, when I take the college entrance exam next year, will you come with me too? Why should I? He blurted out. My eyes were hurt and confused. Aren't we boyfriend and girlfriend? Shouldn't we face things together? Besides, our grades are both really good. Even if we take the exam next year, we can still go to the same university. I stepped closer and looked up at him. What? You don't want to go to college with me? Lucy's face was full of conflict. He looked at me, then at Lin Jixia. Lin Jixia stood a few steps away, her eyes slightly widened and her lips moving soundlessly. Promise her, but he didn't have time to think about it. Because the doubt and impatience in Shindu's eyes were practically overflowing, Lucia forced out a smile uglier than crying. Okay, I promise. After saying that, his shoulders slumped. I looked at him and gave him a sweet smile. Thank you, Lucia. You're so nice. 6 after evening study hall. Lucia walked over. Suwon, you head back first. I still have a few things to take care of today. I smiled. Go get some rest once you're done. And don't stay up too late. Lucia let out a relieved breath and turned to leave. I watched his back as he crossed the classroom. When he passed Lin Jixia's desk, he hesitated for a moment. Lin Jixia had her head down, packing her bag, her fingers gripping the strap tightly. Come on, let's go, Fangqing said as she came over with her bag slung over her shoulder. She looped her arm through mine and dragged me outside. As we walked out of the school gate, Fangqing asked me, Suwon, are you really going to give up the college entrance exam? I winked at Fangqing, just watch me. Even if I drop the college entrance exam, I can still take down Lucia in the class beauty. Fangqing suddenly stopped in her tracks and almost stumbled when I pulled her. She stared at me wide-eyed. Are you out of your mind? You're going to mess with the college entrance exam? Fangqing, I turned around, placed both hands on her shoulders, and looked into her worried eyes. You still don't trust me? She pressed her lips together, tucked her hair behind her ear, and let out a long sigh. All right, as long as you know what you're doing. She paused. Anyway, if you mess it up, I'll bail you out. My nose stung with emotion, and I almost lost it. In my past life, she stood up for me and ended up battered and bloodied, and later fell into depression. At the intersection, Fangqing turned left while I went right, heading to the Municipal People's Hospital. My mom was sitting half reclined against the headboard, reading a magazine. When she saw me, a smile immediately lit up her face. Wanwan's here. Are you hungry? I already ate, Mom. I set my school bag down, sat by the bed, and held her hand. That hand was as thin as a dead twig, its knuckles protruding, the back of it covered with needle marks and bruises. I held it tightly, not daring to squeeze too hard, afraid of hurting her, but I wanted to hold on a little tighter, because in my past life, I'd never be able to hold this hand again. Mom, I have some good news for you. Your surgery money is all together. My mom froze for a moment, staring at my face, her brow furrowed. Where did the money come from? Wanwan, you mustn't do anything foolish. No. I hurriedly shook my head. A kind-hearted person sponsored it. Their family does charity work, and when they heard about my situation, they gave me a sum of money specifically. Mom, just go ahead and have the surgery without worrying. I'll make an appointment with the doctor tomorrow. My mom's eyes turned red. She gripped my hand tightly and, after choking up for a long moment, finally managed to speak. Wanwan, why you need to study hard. When you make something of yourself in the future, you must repay them. You can't forget your savior. I know, Mom. I wiped the tears from her face. I'll study hard for sure. In my past life, after I died, my mom gave up treatment and stormed off to the school like a crazed mother beast to demand answers. In the end, Lucia pushed her down the stairs, and she was still clutching my photo in her hand. I'll settle this account one dead at a time. 7. With a click, the ward door was pushed open. My dad's grey-blue work uniform was covered in specks of cement. He was carrying a lunchbox in his left hand and a thermos container in his right. The white hair at his temples stood out starkly under the light. Dad, I stood up. Oh, Wanwan's here. My dad smiled, set the things on the bedside table, and opened the thermos. I made chicken soup for you and your mom. Have some while it's hot. He spent the whole day hauling bricks at the construction site, covered head to toe in dust, with no time even to wash his hands. Back in his previous life, he had done the same, working himself to the bone at the construction site from dawn till dusk, just to save up for my mom's surgery. After my mom died, he had a heart attack and never got back up. The forensic doctor said it was sudden cardiac death. He was literally angered to death. Dad, take this money, don't go to the construction site these next few days. After Paying mom's surgery bill, just stay home, cook good meals, and take care of her. My dad froze for a moment and looked down at the card in his hand. Where did all this money come from? It was donated by a kind-hearted person. The rest is for living expenses. Dad, just listen to me. Don't go to the construction site these next few days. It's too exhausting, and your body can't take it. My dad clutched the money tightly. No way. You're about to start college, tuition, living expenses. Everything costs money. Your dad's still in good shape. I can keep working a few more years. No problem. I cut him off. Dad, just take care of yourself and take care of mom. Once I get into a good university, once mom's feeling better, the three of us will have no trouble making money. My dad looked at my mom. My mom's eyes were full of tears, but she said nothing in the end. He stuffed the money into his pocket and gave the top of my head a light rub with his big hand. All right, we'll do it. Your way. 8. Before I knew it, it was the night before the college entrance exam. A gentle smile lingered at the corner of Lucy's mouth. I've booked an esports hotel. Let's relax and take it easy tonight. My voice was soft and lazy. Good thing you're here. He reached over and ruffled my hair. I didn't dodge. Once we got to the hotel, Lucy, I turned the air conditioner down to 24 degrees. Then took 2 cups of hot milk out of his bag and handed one to me. Have some milk. It'll help you sleep. He smiled gently, looking harmless. I took the milk, opened it, and took a sip, then smiled sweetly. I'm still a little hungry. How about we order some barbecue too? Seeing me drink the milk, Lucy's lips twitched in annoyance. Eating barbecue this late at night isn't good for your stomach, is it? Just this once, I said, tugging at his sleeve. After tomorrow, I'll be a repeat student. Shouldn't we celebrate tonight? All right. I'll go down and buy some. Lucy, I came back very quickly, carrying a plastic bag filled with grilled skewers. When he pushed the door open and came in, I was sitting cross-legged on the bed, holding half a glass of milk and scrolling on my phone. Here they are, he said, his brows lifting as he set the bag on the coffee table and rubbed his hands together. Dig in. Once you're done, get some sleep early. He picked up the milk, lifted it, and gave me a little nod with it. I stood up too, and my glass lightly clinked against his. Happy rereading, I said. He looked into my eyes, and at last there was real, heartfelt joy in his gaze. Happy rereading. We drained the milk in one gulp. In the end, I yawned and said I was sleepy, and he thoughtfully turned off the lights. 2 beds with a nightstand in between. Moonlight filtered through the sheer curtains and fell on his face, and his breathing gradually became even and deep. 9. The next day, at 12:03, Lucy, I shot upright out of bed. He stared blankly at the blazing sun, his eyes widening in utter disbelief. What time is it? It's after 12. What's wrong? Lucy's face went deathly pale, and he looked as if every bit of strength had been drained from him. He collapsed back onto the bed at once. Impossible. This can't be. How did I fall asleep? How could I have fallen asleep? He lowered his hand, then whirled around to stare at me, his eyes bloodshot and his expression twisted. Suan, why did I sleep for so long? Why didn't you wake me up this morning? He rolled off the bed, barefoot, and rushed up to me, grabbing my shoulders with both hands. He shook me hard. Why didn't you wake me up? Say something. His gaze looked like he could devour someone alive. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. Lucy, I finally stopped shaking my hands. He covered his face and looked at me in disbelief. I glared at him, my eyes red with tears, furious and hurt. Can you please calm down? We're not even taking the college entrance exam today. What does it matter if you fall asleep? Lucy, I stared at me blankly for several seconds. No college entrance exam, he murmured, repeating it under his breath. Right, no college entrance exam, but he still couldn't calm down. In fact, he was even more shattered than before. He let go of my shoulders, stumbled back 2 steps, buried his hands in his hair, and sank down into a crouch. No, that's not right, that's not it. He suddenly stood up, grabbed the phone off the table, glanced at the date and time on the screen, hunched over, and let out a beast-like howl. He didn't even look at me, grabbed his backpack and coat, yanked open the door, and slammed it shut hard. The room fell silent. I sat on the edge of the bed and let out a whistle, leaning back against the pillow. I opened the album unhurriedly. The latest screenshot was taken the night Lin Jixia cornered me in the classroom and forced me to give up the college entrance exam. On the screen was the WeChat chat history between Lucia and Lin Jixia. Lucy, am I really supposed to give up the college entrance exam? Lin Jixia, of course not. When the time comes, just give her a sleeping pill so she falls asleep, and you go take the exam instead. Lucia, you really do have a way. Lin Jixia, you have to take the exam, otherwise, with my grades, if I'm not tied to you, how would I ever get into Tsinghua or Peking University? Lucia, don't worry, once we both get into Tsinghua or Peking University, I'll dump her and run off with you. Lin Jixia, kiss JPG. That day, Lucia, I used my tablet to transfer some files and forgot to log out. That evening, I took a screenshot and saved it. 10. Once the college entrance exam was over, Lucia and Lin Jixia never contacted me again. I didn't care either until the day the exam results were released at 7 a.m. on June 23rd. I was already blowing up the class group chat. Suwon, at everyone, the results are out today. When are you all going to school to check your scores? Let's go together. I fired off several exclamation marks in a row, sounding really excited. Suwon, at Lucia at Lin Jixia, when are you going? Let's go together. After the message went out, the group went quiet for 2 minutes. Lumin, I was just getting ready to go too. Around 10, class rep Shoyoung, 10 o'clock plus 1. The more people, the livelier it'll be. Fengqing, 10 o'clock works for me. I'm about to start a live stream anyway. My followers have been waiting all day for the score release. Then everyone started tagging Lucia at Lucia brother Ci. Come too, even if you didn't take the exam. We were classmates after all. Coming to bear witness would be nice too. Yeah, Lucia, this is our class's last group activity. After all, come on. Exactly. If you don't come, Suwon will be all alone at Lucia. A little over 10 minutes later, Lucia replied, okay, see you at school at 10. I typed excitedly, great, see you at 10 then. At 9:50 a.m., Fengqing and I arrived at the classroom. Holding her phone stand, Fengqing waved at the camera. Good morning, everyone. It's 9:56 a.m. and we've arrived at school. We're going in soon to check our scores. I'm so nervous. Are you nervous too? Comments were flying by in a blur. I stood beside Fengqing and took a quick look around the crowd. Lucia kept checking his phone over and over. A couple of meters away from him stood Lin Jixia, wearing a white dress and canvas sneakers, her long hair draped over her shoulders, her fingers rubbed anxiously against each other, her lips pressed into a tight line, her face unnaturally pale. Both of them looked pretty grim. Jixia, I jogged over and grabbed her hand. You finished your task. You don't have to die anymore. Why do you look so down? Lin Jixia's mouth twitched slightly, her lashes fluttering. I'm not upset. I'm just a little nervous. I'm afraid my score won't be enough. Of course not. I smiled even brighter. You're the top student in our class, so this should be a piece of cake. As soon as I said that, a twitch flickered at the corner of Lucy's mouth beside me. I let go of Lin Jixia's hand and turned to look at Lucia. Lucia, why do you look unhappy too? Don't tell me you don't want to retake the year with me. Lucia clenched his teeth, his cheeks puffing up as he tried hard to hold back his anger. In an irritated voice, he said, is retaking the year something to be proud of? He glared at me, his eyes practically shooting fire. Can't I even be upset for a bit? I blinked, my expression shifting from aggrieved to forgiving as I comforted him. Sure, we have to repeat the year, but we did save the class beauty's life. Saving one life is worth more than building a 7-story pagoda. How can you be so petty? Lucy's face turned a deep livid red. Lin Jixia glanced at Lu Chen's dark expression and gave a faint smile. Suwon, he has to repeat the year after all. It's only natural for him to be upset. What she said made perfect sense, and several classmates nearby nodded in agreement. 11. Fengqing walked over holding up her phone. She's a pretty well-known study influencer. The account Fengqing aims for Tsinghua in Peking has over 100,000 followers on Xiaopozen. She usually shares study notes and test-taking tips, and today's score check was the big day she'd been waiting for all through senior year. As Fengqing talked, she walked toward us. The camera panned over the three of us, and her eyes lit up. Guys, let me tell you, something huge just happened in our class. Our class belle, Lin Jixia, says she's been bound to a top student system, and she has to outscore Suwon if she wants to stay alive. The few of us were pretty much regulars on Fengqing's account by now, and her hardcore fans all knew us. A top student system. Did fiction just come to life? Seriously, that's way too outrageous. Fengqing spoke rapidly, and then Suwon decided to give up this year's college entrance exam to save her. That's right, you heard me. She's giving up the gaokao just to save the class belle's life. Lin Jixia's expression changed. Her fingers clenched the hem of her dress as she stared at the phone in Fengqing's hand and snapped, stop filming. What's there to film? Lucia realized what was happening too. He instinctively turned sideways to avoid the camera, one hand lifting to shield his face as he said sharply, Fengqing, move the phone away. I took the phone from Fengqing, waved at the screen, and flashed a bright smile. Hi, everyone, I'm Suwon. Yes, I did give up the college entrance exam. But it doesn't matter, I saved the class beauty's life, and I'm really happy. The barrage of comments sped up even more. Oh my god, you actually gave up the college entrance exam. This is way too outrageous. Girl, did you get scammed? What genius student system? You didn't just make that up, did you? What an idiot. Giving up the college entrance exam for a reason like that. I looked at the barrage of comments, and my smile slowly faded. The corners of my mouth turned down slightly, my expression becoming serious and solemn. Please don't say that. Everyone, the system is real, and my boyfriend can vouch for it. He can hear the conversation between the system and the class belle. Please believe me. The comments exploded. Wait, you actually believe that? Your boyfriend's relationship with the campus belle seems a little off, doesn't it? I remember that vlog from your school last time, when your boyfriend was explaining the problem to the campus belle. The two of them were standing incredibly close. Yeah, I remember now too. At the sports meet, the campus belle smiled and popped a lemon into that guy's mouth, and the two of them were grinning at each other so flirtatiously. The tall, handsome guy, isn't that your boyfriend? So what exactly is going on between those two? Why do I feel like I shipped the wrong couple? Girl, snap out of it. there's obviously something going on between your boyfriend and the class beauty. I stared at those scrolling comments. My expression turning blank and incredulous, I covered my mouth, eyes wide. Teach, that can't be right, can it? You've got it wrong. The class beauty and our class's troublemaker are the ones who are together. I looked straight into the camera and said, the school bully offered me 300,000 yuan to give up the college entrance exam for the class beauty. Why would the school bully pay money? So the school bully and the class beauty are a couple. What on earth is the relationship between these four people? Help, you two idiots. The school bully's an idiot, and so are you. I held up my phone, the smile on my face slowly freezing as I turned to look at Lucie, then at Lin Jixia. Lucie's face had gone as dark as it could possibly get. He clenched his fists so tightly they crackled, and the vein at his temple throbbed violently. The hand hanging at Lin Jixia's side trembled slightly. 12. While the comments were flying across the screen, someone shouted from the other end of the hallway, "You can check your scores now." Everyone surged into the classroom all at once. Come on, into the classroom. Fangqing snatched the phone back from my hand. Here we go. Fangqing, you've got this. All kinds of people, the realities of life. I stood by the window, quietly watching everyone in the room. Fangqing moved through the crowd with her phone in hand, comforting the classmates who had flunked the exam while also interacting with the comments streaming by. Lucie pressed his lips into a thin line, his jaw clenched tight. Lin Jixia sat in her seat, her hands clasped tightly together and resting on her knees. Her hands kept twisting the hem of her skirt, her knuckles turning white and standing out sharply. She stared fixedly at the screen, but still didn't enter her exam admission number. Why hasn't that class beauty checked her result yet? Right, she's the only one left, isn't she? Wasn't she always a top student? She should be totally fine. Why would a straight-A student even be nervous? I glanced at those scrolling comments, and the corners of my mouth curved slightly. Then I stepped over to Lin Jixia. Jixia, you're the only one left who hasn't checked yet, right? Hurry up and check. Everyone wants to see your score. I'll wait a little longer, she said softly. The system's a bit laggy. No way. Everyone else has already checked, and the internet's pretty fast. Are you too scared to look? I'll check for you. I reached out and grabbed the admission ticket on her desk. Don't, Lin Jixia suddenly reached out to stop me, her voice sharp, but Fangqing kept one hand on the phone stand and laid the other over Lin Jixia's hand, saying with a smile, "Oh, Jixia, don't be nervous. Anyway, the homeroom teacher will post the score sheet in the group chat tomorrow. Whether you look at it now or later, you'll still have to look at it. Everyone wants to see your score, so just let us take a peek." I entered her exam admission number. The classroom fell silent. Everyone was waiting. I pressed the search button. After a few seconds of loading, the numbers popped up. Everyone was stunned. 13, total score, 387. I widened my eyes. A gasp rippled through the classroom. 387. No way. Jixia usually scores over 600, doesn't she? Could they have gotten it wrong? Maybe check again. That's way too far off. Fangqing shoved her phone over, aiming the camera at that glaring number. 387. Am I seeing this right? Wasn't she supposed to be a top student? That score probably doesn't even clear the undergraduate cutoff. Did I remember wrong? Doesn't she usually score over 600? Oh my god, that's a huge drop, more than 200 points. This isn't just a bad day anymore, is it? I looked at Lin Jixia. Her expression was blank as she said, "I gave up the college entrance exam, just so you could score 387. Lin Jixia's face turned ashen. Fangqing's camera lens was pointed straight at my face. This girl gave up the college entrance exam, so how did the class beauty score over 600 before? She cheated, right? She definitely cheated. There's no way a normal exam could drop from over 600 to the 300s. That system must be fake too. Then what genius student system? They probably just made it up out of jealousy. Did they team up with her boyfriend to scam her? Didn't her boyfriend say he could hear the system talking, so the class belle and her boyfriend are in on it? They tricked the female lead into giving up the college entrance exam. Well, her boyfriend didn't take the exam either, so now they're both screwed. Zhang's mom really had it rough. She got fooled by her boyfriend and the class beauty working together, and ended up losing her college entrance exam too. Lin Jixia, tears in her voice, said haltingly, I got my period during the exam. Your period? Can your period really explain a drop from 650 to 380, girl? Do you think we're idiots? Period. I'm not taking the blame for this. 14. Lu Min suddenly stood up from the back row, holding up her phone, her voice full of shock. Hurry, look at the school forum. Someone posted a video. What video? Several people pulled out their phones at the same time. I opened the forum too. The post title was in bold red. Explosive Lin Jixia x Wang Jiangwo. The video isn't in HD, but the faces are clear enough to recognize. In the private room, Lin Jixia sat disheveled in Wang Jiangwo's lap. Wang Jiangwo ogled Lin Jixia and groped her all over. Teacher Wang, could you give Me the answers for next month's exam a little earlier next time. Last time you gave them to me so late, I almost didn't memorize them. Wang Jiangwo kissed the corner of Lin Jixia's lips. All right, I'll keep that in mind, but don't rely on it too much either. Read more books when you have time. But I can't remember what I read, Lin Jixia said in a spoiled tone. Wang Jiangwo asked again. Jixia, that Luci from your class. Do you actually like him? Lin Jixia said disdainfully. I don't like him at all. Then why are you with him all the time? He helps me cheat, and he's a top student, so he can get me into Tsinghua or Peking University. Lin Jixia smiled smugly. As long as he's willing, I'm not losing anything. Holy shit, is this video real or fake? So the class beauty's grades were all stolen. Lin Jixia froze in her chair, the color draining from her face. Her phone slipped through her fingers and hit the floor with a sharp thud. Jixia, even if you want to get into Tsinghua or Peking University, why did you have to hurt me? I asked her through tears. Lin Jixia's eyes flickered. The video is fake. It was AI face swapped. Technology is so advanced now. What can't it do? As she spoke, tears kept dripping down. But this time, no one believed her. An AI face swap, and you're still refusing to admit it. I just checked the forum. Someone used professional software to verify it. It's real. Stop struggling. Class beauty. Fang Qing lowered her head and waved the screen at Lin Jixia, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Jixia, someone online has already verified it. They said it's real. Do you want to see? Lin Jixia was trembling all over, her long hair falling forward and hiding her face. I grabbed her by the shoulders and shook her hard. Why? My tears blurred my vision. Why did you do this to me? What did I ever do to you? Tell me. I shook her harder and harder, and her body fluttered in my hands like a dead leaf. At last, she couldn't hold it in anymore. Because I'm jealous of you, she jerked her head up, her eyes bloodshot. What right do you have? Your family is so poor, your mom is practically dying, and your dad's just a bricklayer, so why are your grades so good? Why are you always first in every exam? Why does everyone like you? She stared at me as if I were her sworn enemy. My family is better off than yours. The clothes I wear, the bags I carry, the snacks I eat, what's not better than yours? And yet I still can't beat you on the exam, no matter how hard I study. I can't beat you. Her voice grew louder and louder, tears and snot mixing together as that delicate face twisted into something ugly and distorted. I'm so bad at school that even if Luci gets into Tsinghua and Peking University, he still won't be able to carry me along, unless he's the top scorer. Maybe the top scorer gets special admission slots. Maybe he can even bring me in with him. She shot to her feet. So I need you to disappear. If you don't take the college entrance exam, Lu Ci will be the top scorer, and if he becomes the top scorer, I'll have a chance. Do you understand? After shouting the last line, she slumped back into the chair as if all the air had been let out of her. Tears were still streaming down her face, but she burst into a wild, reckless laugh. I stared at her, trembling all over. You ruined me just to save yourself. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. Lin Jixia's head snapped to the side. Before she could say anything, my second slap had already landed. I didn't know how many times I had slapped myself. Enough, Suan. Luci grabbed my wrist, frowning, his face dark with anger. He said, stop hitting yourself. So many people are watching. I turned and looked at him, then I slapped Luci across the face, again and again. You're my boyfriend. Why did you team up with a woman who only used you as a stepping stone to lie to me? Lin Jixia suddenly laughed. With her face swollen and red from my slaps, her hair disheveled, she laughed like a madwoman. Ha ha ha. Anyway, I'm already ruined. She stared straight at me, a vicious sense of satisfaction shining in her eyes. I only scored just over 300 on the college entrance exam. All my shameful business has been posted online. I'm done for. But don't think you'll get off easy either. You gave up the college entrance exam too, and you're no better than I am, she screamed, if I'm not getting a good life. Why should you? Why should you? Everyone was stunned by the scene. The once delicate, tearful girl in the white dress, the one everyone wanted to protect, was now laughing wildly, baring her fangs. Fang Qing let out a cold laugh. Sorry, but my bestie isn't going down. 15. Lin Jixia's laughter came to an abrupt stop. She looked up, her face streaked with tears and blank with confusion. A vague unease rose in my heart. What do you mean? Fang Qing looked at me and raised an eyebrow. I tucked the hair hanging by my cheeks behind my ears and cleared my throat, because I got a guaranteed admission to Tsinghua and Peking University. The smile on Lin Jixia's face froze completely. Impossible, impossible. She shook her head violently, tears flying off her face. Impossible. How could you possibly get into recommendation? I tilted my head slightly, my tone light. When I was applying for recommendation admission with a first-place prize in the national physics competition, you were still getting Wang Jiangwo to steal your monthly exam answers. Lin Jixia stood there with her mouth open, eyes wide, looking as if she'd been punched in the face. She murmured over and over, impossible, impossible, impossible. Luci stared at me with his eyes wide too. You got in through direct admission. You got in through direct admission. Then what about me? His voice suddenly rose. I gave up the college entrance exam. I gave it up because of you. Did you give up the college entrance exam because of me? I said in confusion. Lucy, you gave up the college entrance exam because the night before the exam, you wanted to give me milk laced with sleeping pills. There was another sharp intake of breath in the classroom. Lucy's face turned pale in an instant. You wanted me to miss the college entrance exam. That way, you'd be #1 in the entire school, the top scorer, and you'd be able to take Lin Jixia to Tsinghua and Peking University. But you brought this on yourself and drank every last drop of that milk laced with sleeping pills, so you missed the college entrance exam. Nonsense. I didn't drug it. I slowly took my phone out of my pocket, opened the photo album, pulled up those screenshots, and held them up for the whole class in Fangqing's camera to see. What is this? Everyone was staring at those few screenshots. Lucy's face went pale and flushed in turns. Why you snooped on my phone. I only figured it out from your reaction that day. And then I happened to see it on your phone too. Talk about coincidence. Lucy, I was left speechless. So neither of them took the college entrance exam, but the girl got a guaranteed admission, while the guy got nothing at all. Serves him right. This guy is seriously both stupid and vile. Drugging himself is killing me. LOL. The heroine got a guaranteed spot at Tsinghua or Peking University. Who is it just now calling her a total airhead? Turns out she's the biggest winner of all. The female lead is absolutely crushing it in the IQ department. 16. Lin Jixia collapsed into the chair. Why did you choose early admission? Didn't you promise? Shindu paid me just to skip the college entrance exam. He never said I couldn't take an early admission offer. I patted my chest and let out a long breath. Besides, you said it yourself. If your college entrance exam score was higher than mine, you'd live. You scored 387, and I scored 0, so you really did do better than me. Your life was saved. And I got into Tsinghua and Peking University without even trying. Best of both worlds, isn't that great? Lin Jixia's face twisted, my smile slowly faded. Good thing I entered the competition, or wouldn't I have been screwed over by you two bastards? Shindu is here. Everyone's eyes turned in unison toward the classroom door. I could finally make out his face. In that instant, my blood nearly froze. Shindu looked awful, hollow, lifeless, and deathly pale, with bloodshot red eyes. On this day in his past life, Shindu's mother died. Shindu's mother was beaten to death by the Shin family's legitimate wife, who brought people with her. On this day in his past life, Shindu lost his mother. Then he heard again that Lin Jixia had died, and that I was the one who drove her to it. An 18-year-old boy who had lost both his mother and the girl he loved had nothing left in this life. He had once again lost his mother and the girl of his dreams in his heart. The so-called good girl turned out to be nothing but a cheap tramp, a liar who keeps up a false persona through cheating, a bitch who treats sincerity like a stepping stone. He still had nothing left. I looked at Shindu's face, and my heart clenched hard. Shindu pulled a knife from his school uniform pocket. Shindu, what are you doing? Someone screamed, but he was already moving. Shindu lunged at Lin Jixia, and before she could even react, the knife sank into her lower abdomen, clutching her stomach. Lin Jixia stumbled backward and fell. The chair toppled over, and her body hit the floor as the white dress was quickly stained with a large patch of blood. The classroom erupted into chaos. Someone's been killed. Run, call the police, dial 911. I wanted to run too, but the terror of memories from my past life kept my legs from obeying me. Shindu stood beside Lin Jixia's collapsed body, looking as though the life had been drained out of him. His school uniform was splattered with blood. He looked down at Lin Jixia, who was twitching on the ground, his expression exhausted. Then he lifted his head and looked at me, his lips parting slightly. Take good care of your mother. Then he turned and ran toward the window. He didn't hesitate for a second as he climbed over the windowsill. 18. Lin Jixia was taken away by ambulance. She was stabbed twice. One wound damaged her spleen, and the other pierced an artery. By the time she arrived at the hospital, she was already in shock. They fought to save her for 3 hours, but in the end, they still couldn't bring her back. Shindu died on the spot. It blew up big. A senior high school girl was stabbed to death by a classmate. School bully jumps to his death. Straight-A student system scam. The school dean was involved in an inappropriate relationship with a female student. One trending topic after another shot to the top of the hot search list. Wang Zhengwo was taken away for investigation. Later investigations found that he had committed far more than 1 or 2 offenses, and he was ultimately sentenced to 15 years. The Education Bureau issued a notice barring Lucy from taking the Gaokao for the next 3 years, and the school went ahead and processed his withdrawal from enrollment. He didn't even have a high school diploma. After 12 years of schooling, he still ended up without even a high school credential. His mom gave him 200,000 yuan she'd saved up over half her life and told him to try starting a small business. He took that 200,000 yuan and got scammed into some called project, said to be cross-border e-commerce, guaranteed profits, no risk. He put all the money in, and then that guy just vanished. Not only was the money gone, he himself was tricked into going abroad too, under the guise of an overseas operations center, and in the end, he got taken for everything he had. At the end of August, I boarded the train to Beijing. My mom's surgery went very smoothly. The doctor said that after a few more months of recovery, she'd be able to live like a normal person, my dad stopped going to the construction site and used the 100,000 yuan I left him to open a small shop at the entrance of our neighborhood, selling breakfast. Business is doing okay, enough for us to get by. We all have a bright future. Story 2. My sister-in-law was set up by our neighbor Stanley. She was completely distraught, sobbing uncontrollably. I threw a basin of cold water in her face. I called both the ambulance and the police. Afterwards, Stanley ended up behind bars. My sister-in-law also returned to her normal study routine. Everything was calm and peaceful until I accidentally ate poisonous mushrooms and died. I thought my husband, in-laws, and sister-in-law would be utterly heartbroken, but to my shock, my husband eagerly pulled out his phone. "Ah, Fong, that woman is dead. I can finally marry you now." My sister-in-law laughed triumphantly. "Sis, those poisonous mushrooms I picked for you myself. Did you enjoy them?" My mother-in-law burned incense and prayed. "Thank you, Buddha, for removing this scourge." She almost exposed my affair with Stanley. What shocked me most was my father-in-law. He even slipped the knockout drops into my sister-in-law's cup. 1. My boss is sending me on a business trip. Go home immediately and pack 2 changes of clothes for me. I'll be waiting at the airport. When my husband called, I realized I had been reborn in my previous life. He said he had to go on a last-minute business trip. He asked me to come home and help him pack his luggage. I rushed back only to walk in on my sister-in-law being drugged by our neighbor Stanley. Without hesitation, I called both emergency numbers and made sure that bastard Stanley got locked up to pay for his crimes. I thought I was the hero coming to my sister-in-law's rescue in shining armor. Little did I expect that afterward, my mother-in-law would keep saying, whether intentionally or not, "A girl's reputation is everything, and now my daughter's life is ruined. Your sister-in-law meant well, she just acted too impulsively at the time. Don't hold it against her, dear." I was feeling upset and tried to confide in my husband, but he didn't take my side. "My mom didn't mean anything by it. Don't overthink it. You went ahead and called the police without even discussing such a major decision with me first. Now everyone's gossiping about our family, and it's all because of you." My train of thought was interrupted. My husband's impatient urging, "Say something. Are you deaf or mute? Don't forget to bring me that gray pajama set. You're always so scatterbrained, never giving me a moment's peace." Ryan had a set of gray pajamas, full of holes in several places, yet he couldn't bear to throw them away and wore them almost every day. It wasn't until after I died that I found out they were a birthday gift from his one true love. Seeing that I still remained silent, he lowered his voice. "Be good, sweetheart. You know I can't sleep without that pajama set." I sneered inwardly. I know that all too well. He held the wrinkled Fong in his arms and poured out his heart. "Wearing this feels like holding you close. That's the only way I feel secure and at peace." Chin Fong, a woman in her 40s or 50s, nestled in Ryan's embrace with a coquettish blush. The thought of their picture-perfect mother-son bond sent a shiver down my spine. My thoughts were all over the place, so I decided to hold my position until I could sort them out. "I'm at work too, can't get away." The other person sneered. "Your job seems so cushy, Des. The whole company grind to a halt if you step away for a moment." I replied in the same even tone. "The boss just held a meeting. There's an inspection this afternoon." Ryan clearly didn't expect to meet with polite resistance here. In the past, I always went out of my way to accommodate him, hardly ever turning down any of his requests. After a long pause, he said in a displeased tone, "Fine, you're a busy person. I don't have the honor of being able to boss you around." "That's right, you don't have the honor of bossing me around, but you do have the honor of witnessing a grand spectacle. You blamed me before for calling the police. Let's see what you'll do this time, too." After hanging up the phone, I sat at my desk carefully reviewing the situation. In my past life, I was incredibly naive. I thought it didn't matter if my family didn't appreciate my efforts, as long as I had a clear conscience. Until the day I accidentally ate poisonous mushrooms and died, my spirit lingered reluctantly, returning to bid farewell to my family one last time. But what I saw was my husband's face lit up with joy as he eagerly pulled out his phone. "Ah, Fong, that woman is dead. I can finally marry you now." Only then did I realize that the husband who had always seemed so devoted had betrayed me long ago. My mother-in-law burned incense and prayed, "Thank you, Buddha, for removing the scourge from our family. If Yvonne had exposed Stanley's affair, we would all have been ruined." I was shocked. "Isn't Stanley the scumbag who drugged and assaulted my sister-in-law? What else happened between them?" What surprised me most was my father-in-law. He also slipped the drug into my sister-in-law's cup. I shook my head, but in that critical moment, my spirit was fading, and I missed what happened next. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself reborn into the present. But as for Stanley's relationship with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I had a vague suspicion in my heart, just waiting for the next step to confirm it. The phone suddenly rang. It was my husband. "Come home quick. Something terrible happened." I could hear my sister-in-law's familiar sobs in the background. "Fine, let's head back." Who doesn't love joining in the fun? And rushed home in a flash, speeding like lightning. On the way, I also called my father-in-law and mother-in-law. "Mom, Ryan said something's happened at home, but he won't tell me what when I asked. I'm going out of my mind with worry." "Dad, you're still fishing. Get home." right now and see what's going on. Something's wrong. By the time I got home, I saw Stanley kneeling on the floor, relentlessly slapping himself across the face. His clothes were disheveled, his fly was down, and his face was bruised and swollen. Gone was the elegant, gentlemanly demeanor of the respectable young boss he once had. Clothes were scattered all over the floor: underwear, panties, a little skirt, and a small t-shirt. Kiki was sobbing under the covers, wrapped in a blanket. Her face was flushed, and the effects of the drug clearly hadn't worn off completely. Even her crying carried a hint of delicate charm. Seeing Kiki like this made Ryan's eyes burn with fury. He threw punches indiscriminately at Stanley's face. "Damn old bastard, how dare you treat my sister like this? Don't you have a daughter? Have you no humanity?" The in-laws pushed the door open and entered. My mother-in-law let out a sharp cry. "Ryan, what are you doing? Stop it." She spread her arms like a mother hen, shielding her chick, putting herself between Stanley and the threat. In my past life, I had completely overlooked this tension and concern. Now that I think about it, there's clearly something going on between them. We're neighbors. Ryan, you can't just hit people like that. Just hit people. Look at the awful things he's done. Only then did mother-in-law realize what was happening before her eyes. She understood everything. Yet she still stared at Stanley as if unwilling to accept it. Her voice trembling. "Stanley, what's going on here?" Ashamed, Stanley slapped himself across the face 2 more times. This one really packed more of a punch than the last. He didn't say a word, just hung his head even lower. The shock was too much for Granny to bear. He collapsed to the ground, his legs giving way beneath him. For a long moment, he was speechless. Such a sin. It's all a terrible sin. The old man standing nearby threw down his fishing gear. He yanked his mother, who had collapsed on the floor, and shoved her aside. Then he flew into a frenzy, punching and kicking Stanley wildly. From the violent shove, the elderly woman's head struck the corner of the sofa, and blood started pouring from the wound. Clutching her bleeding head, she wailed and begged through her tears, "Stop fighting. Someone's going to get killed." My husband was egging them on from the sidelines. "Beat that bastard to death." The house was in complete chaos. Kiki, who had been huddled to the side, stood up with the blanket wrapped around her. Summoning all her courage, she pointed a trembling finger at Stanley. "I'm calling the police. I'm going to call the police." For the mother-in-law's wailing abruptly ceased. Tear stains and mucus still streaked her face, yet she fell silent, her expression blank, lost in thought. Stanley paid no heed to the blows raining down on him. He dropped to his knees, kowtowing with loud thuds. "Kiki, I'm begging you. Please don't call the police. It's all my fault. I was just watching TV at home when, out of nowhere, those images started playing on the screen. I must have lost my mind. I'll pay for the damages, any amount you want." A moment of poor judgment. My husband repeated his words. If it was just a moment of poor judgment, why would you have the drug ready? This was clearly premeditated. In desperation, Stanley looked toward his father-in-law. "Kenneth, you know this medicine perfectly well. You're the one who gave it to me." Father-in-law snapped angrily. "I gave it to you for your personal recreation, not for you to use on my daughter. Seems these 2 old men have been up to no good all along." My husband shot his father a conflicted look, then immediately pulled out his phone to make a call. "Call the police. Let that bastard spend the rest of his life sewing in prison." But before the call could connect, her mother-in-law's palm landed on her cheek with a sharp crack. She snapped at Ryan. "She may be immature, but you should know better. By calling the police, are you trying to broadcast this disgrace to the whole world?" Ryan's spirit completely deflated after his mother-in-law hit him. The father-in-law also started to mediate. "My dear daughter, putting him in jail would be letting him off too easy. Trust me, I'll devote the rest of my life to making his existence a living hell. I'll go to his place every day to beat him, curse at him, and humiliate him until he wishes he were dead." Kiki seemed somewhat hesitant. "But my sister-in-law always said women must stand up for their rights, be brave and fight back." My sister-in-law and I once watched a documentary called Diary of Darkness together, whose female protagonist went through similar hardships. She chose to expose the atrocities to the world and demand justice for herself. I did say that women who suffer sexual violence should have the courage to come forward, because only when the perpetrators are brought to justice can true closure be found for the trauma endured. Kiki looked at me, hoping to gain my support, yet all I could think of was her triumphant smile. "After my death, you just had to stick your nose in, didn't you? You've completely ruined my life." Kiki's mother-in-law started trying to persuade her again with a pained expression. "Your sister-in-law is just talking without bearing any responsibility. A young woman's reputation is everything. If this gets out, how will you ever find a respectable husband? I'm your own mother. What blood relation is your sister-in-law to you? Who are you going to believe, your own mother or your brother's wife?" I quickly clarified. "I never said anything about calling the police. Kiki, whether you call the police or not is entirely up to you. Don't you dare pin this on me." Kiki was torn, unable to decide. In the end, she wrapped herself in the bedsheet and ran back to her room, sobbing. "Actually, in my previous life, I did consult Kiki before calling the police," she said. "Trust me, bad people deserve to be punished." Yet later she blamed everything on me in this life. Without my support, she ultimately lacked the courage to report it to the police. Consumed by shame, holding on to the violation will only cause deeper secondary trauma. The rest of her life would be trapped in this very day. 5. Ryan frowned at the scene, about to say more when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen, pressed the phone to his ear, covered the microphone with his other hand, and walked toward the balcony. Ryan, I've been waiting for you for so long, eh? Soft, gentle woman's voice drifted through the air. It was Chen Fong. Chen Fong was my husband's mentor, the parent of the college student he tutored. When he was still an impressionable young man, he became captivated by this elegant, mature woman. She taught him about life and work, bought him clothes, and took him traveling to see the world. After graduating from college, Ryan insisted on marrying Chen Fong despite his family's objections. His parents went on a hunger strike in protest, but Chen Fong showed remarkable understanding. A woman like me doesn't deserve someone like you. Go find a proper relationship, get married, and have children. Carry on the family line. If you still want to be with me by then, I'm sure your parents won't object. Ryan immediately picked up on her underlying message. That's how he ended up meeting me through a matchmaking date soon after. He was incredibly thoughtful when he was pursuing me. When I worked late, he would quietly wait in his car outside my office building. On chilly days when we met for dates, he'd bring me a hot milk tea to warm my hands. At food streets, I'd buy all kinds of snacks, take a bite of each, and he'd finish whatever I left. Growing up in an orphanage, I've been fighting my battles alone in this world. That's why I cling desperately to any shred of warmth others offer. Little did I realize, having no one to fall back on is precisely why I must save myself. I naively believed he was the one I'd spend my life with. Looking back now, it's all thanks to that godmother's careful coaching. I even suspect those sweet texts and gestures were choreographed by her. I can't believe I was part of their twisted game. How disgusting. Ryan was on the balcony taking a phone call for a long time. When he came back, his expression had softened considerably. It seems the godmother had made up her mind. He had the final say. A girl's reputation and chastity are more important than her life. Let's just say Kiki was bitten by a dog. Don't air your dirty laundry in public. We can't let this get out. He looked at Stanley, who had breathed a sigh of relief, tilted her chin up slightly. Of course, I won't let a bastard like you get off easy. 1 million. Consider it compensation for my sister's emotional distress. 6. Because of this delay, Ryan couldn't go on his business trip. However, he certainly lived up to his godmother's expectations. That very night, he was at it again, pestering me to have a baby with him. I couldn't suppress my visceral disgust. He leaned over the toilet and threw up. Ryan's face was icy cold. You're my wife. Am I not even allowed to touch you? Then why did I marry you? Well, no more pretending. The fox has finally shown its tail. I could just slap him right across the face and tell him I saw right through his little games from the start. We're getting a divorce, but I didn't. Those who betray true hearts don't deserve to get off so easily. I'll make sure every last one of them pays in blood. I've long been prepared to protect myself. Shyly, I pulled out the 2 red lines I had prepared earlier from my bag. Ryan's expression changed faster than flipping a page. He immediately started fussing over me. He kept calling me baby and showering me with affection. I pretended to be angry, tossed his bedding onto the sofa, locked the bedroom door, and felt completely at ease. 7. Ever since this happened, my mother-in-law seems completely devastated. She used to talk non-stop about wanting a grandson, but now that he's here, she can't muster an ounce of joy. She's been crying her eyes out all day. I almost felt sorry for her, thinking about how Kiki and Stanley have such similar eyes. I guess my mother-in-law can't even talk about her suffering. It was my usually quiet father-in-law who always made sure to cook my favorite dishes. Kiki spent 3 days crying at home and refused to go back to school. She was already at the bottom of her class, so her teachers didn't even try to convince her to stay when she stopped attending. Later she started threatening to starve herself and commit suicide. When taken to the hospital, the doctor diagnosed her with mild depression. Her mother-in-law immediately signed Kiki up for a 7-day, 5-night guided tour to Dali, Yunnan. After returning, she bought Kiki a whole new wardrobe and the latest iPhone. A smile spread across Kiki's face. Of course, I was happy too, due to the pregnancy and hormonal changes. I became unusually jealous, always bothered when others had what I didn't. When they go on vacation, I treat myself to a gold bracelet. If they go shopping for clothes, I'll enjoy a fancy dinner out. The moment my sister-in-law gets a new phone, I throw a fit for a car upgrade. If Ryan shows even a hint of hesitation, I wiped away tears, feeling wronged. Everything I eat, drink, or use, it's all for the baby I'm carrying. I can't let my unborn child suffer along with me. Maybe we should wait a bit longer. After a long hesitation, Ryan finally pulled out his credit card. I held onto his arm, gazing at him with sparkling eyes. Thank you for the gift, darling. You really are the most handsome and adorable man. Honestly, I'd love even a $10 bracelet from a street vendor, not because of the gift itself, but because I love you and want to feel your special affection, to know how much I mean to you. Ryan seemed to grow a foot taller under my gaze. He looked me over with evident delight. Darling, you've changed so much lately. Really? How so? He thought for a moment. I can't quite put my finger on it, but she just keeps getting more adorable. I understood completely. After we got married, my husband and I stayed with his parents while our new home was being renovated. Knowing how much work goes into keeping house, I used to remind my husband every single day not to leave his smelly socks lying around when he gets home. Used dishes should go straight into the sink on weekends. I'd always call him to help with the cleaning, but now, I've stopped nagging about these things and basically follow his every word. She showers him with constant emotional validation every day, with praises like "You're so handsome, honey, you're the best, darling," and "My husband is just brilliant," making his sense of superiority swell. How could he not be pleased? 8. Ryan has been spoiling me more and more. He's been working less overtime recently and leaving on time every day. Chin Fong couldn't hold back her frustration. She called Ryan, saying there was urgent work at the company that required him to work overtime. Ryan is preparing a fruit platter for me in the kitchen. Hearing the phone ring, he shrugged helplessly. "Sorry, sweetheart, I have to take this. They can't do anything without me." I picked up a piece of apple and fed it to him. I walked him to the door. "Go ahead, honey, you work so hard for our family." Ryan gave me a tender kiss on the forehead, visibly moved. Otherwise, I suppressed my disgust and urged him on with a shy insistence. "Go ahead. Don't let it interfere with your work." Ryan buried his face in the hollow of my collarbone. "It's fine. It's been a while since we've done that. A little longer won't hurt." I quietly clenched my fist. "Damn it, I can't take this anymore." Just then, a voice came from behind me. Secretary Chin Fong, a woman in her fading years, wore a solid-colored silk dress with her long, straight hair flowing down. She fixed a resentful glare on Ryan. Ryan quickly straightened up and instinctively put some distance between us. "Am I interrupting something?" Chin Fong adopted the approachable demeanor of a superior showing consideration for a subordinate. "It's just that the matter is rather urgent. If it's really inconvenient, we can handle it tomorrow instead." With that, she made to turn and leave. I quickly tried to stop them, generously expressing my support and understanding. As they walked away, I called out, "Honey, the baby and I will be waiting for you at home." Ryan was uncharacteristically flustered. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Chin Fong's composure was on the verge of crumbling. I smiled even more innocently. I waved goodbye with a smile as they left. Truth is, I'd noticed her long before. I just wanted to get under their skin on purpose. She always maintained that God's eye view. They hold my fate in their hands. They deceived me, even tried to make me bear a child only to abandon me afterward. I'll take my revenge slowly, step by step, and make them pay double 9. Back in the bedroom, I pulled up the security feed from my new home. How did I figure out they were using my new place for their dates? A few days ago, I got a utility bill reminder for the new house on WeChat. The place is still empty. Why would there be water and electricity charges? In my past life, I naively vented to my husband about it, and he immediately said it was probably their mistake and he'd handle it. This time around, I didn't tip my hand, quietly paid the fee and promptly bought surveillance cameras to install at home. Sure enough, about 10 minutes later, the two of them appeared on the surveillance footage. Chin Fong looked aggrieved and resentful. "Your wife is young and beautiful. If it weren't for me, you two would probably be very happy together," Ryan declared with conviction. "After all these years, don't you know how I truly feel about you? But I can see your wife is genuinely a good woman. What we're doing is wrong. We should end this before it goes too far." Ryan grew frantic. "You bought this house, oversaw every detail of the renovation and furnishings. In my heart, you've always been the true mistress of this home. I've been putting off Yvonne moving into our new place because I didn't want her tainting our fresh start. Once she's had the baby, my mother will give us her blessing to divorce. My dear Fong, I know these past months haven't been easy on you. I promise I'll make it up to you with all the love I have." Chin Fong buried her face in Ryan's chest, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. "If you don't let me go now, I'll only grow more dependent on you and more terrified of losing you. I can't even face my husband anymore. My heart and body belong to you alone. I'm driven mad with jealousy toward your wife. She gets to love you openly. Why can't I?" Then they poured out their hearts to each other. They soon grew impatient and began engaging in unspeakable acts on the sofa. I was munching on sunflower seeds while recording and binge-watching my show. When Ryan got home again, he was carrying a cake from my favorite bakery, and there was also a vibrant bouquet of red roses. Looking at that face begging for praise, I was so moved I nearly burst into tears. "My dear husband, you really know how to spread the love around." 10. After just 2 days, Kiki came back home in tears again, and immediately demanded her mother-in-law return the 1 million yuan. Of course, her mother-in-law refused. "Where did that million go? You spent money on traveling and buying a new phone, didn't you? Besides, what does a kid like you need money for? It's not like we've ever let you go hungry or thirsty." Ryan chimed in from the side. "You live under our roof, eat our food, and we even pay your tuition. You don't have your own money. Everything you have now will belong to this family eventually." Kiki let out a shriek. "Don't think I don't know. You used my money to buy your wife a new car and that gold bracelet." I quickly tucked away the large gold bracelet I'd accidentally revealed, keeping my tone Gentle, Kiki, can't you just treat it as a loan from your brother and me? We'll pay you back when we have the money. I need money for postpartum care after giving birth. Plus there's formula and diapers for your nephew. And later he'll need all kinds of extracurricular classes in elite schools. Doesn't all that cost money? As his aunt, isn't it only natural for you to spend some money on your nephew? Things were fine until I opened my mouth, but my words made Kiki absolutely furious. She was screaming hysterically like a madwoman. That's the money I sold myself for. How dare you spend my blood money? In a frenzy, she swept all the plates and bowls off the dining table, then started smashing anything in sight. The mother-in-law rushed over to intervene, blinded by rage. Kiki grabbed an ashtray from the table and hurled it at her mother-in-law. The ashtray struck the older woman's forehead, reopening a freshly healed wound that immediately gushed blood. She let out a sharp cry, clutching her forehead as she screamed curses at Kiki. You crazy bitch, what the hell is wrong with you? Kiki accused tearfully. This is all because you stopped me from calling the police. You've ruined my life. Now everyone knows I was raped. I was the victim here. I deserve sympathy, but now they're accusing me of extortion and fraud, saying I sold myself for $1 million, calling me cheap, a sellout. The mother-in-law gasped. Who on earth said that? I'll give them a piece of my mind. Who are you going to confront? All my classmates are saying it behind my back. They're freezing me out. No one will hang out with me anymore. I wouldn't have known why my close friend has been giving me the cold shoulder lately if I hadn't overheard them talking in the restroom. They also said Stanley himself complained that spending $1 million just to sleep with someone who wasn't even a virgin felt like a total ripoff. Without saying a word, the mother-in-law stormed out and started pounding on the neighbor's door. 11. Stanley's son answered the door. Stanley, get out here, you heartless bastard. How could you do this to a child you watched grow up right before your eyes? Stanley, I'm going to make you pay for this. Sterling, a mountain of a man in his 30s, stood blocking the doorway, looking down at the elderly woman with contempt. Auntie, my father did make a mistake, but he's already paid up $1 million. Even high-class escorts don't cost that much. How much more do you want from him? Killing a person only requires losing your head. Are you bullying an old man just because he's home alone with no one to stand up for him? So Sterling thought his father was getting the short end of the stick and came specifically to back him up. My mother-in-law was a bit intimidated by this Sterling, but she still squared her shoulders and yelled, Stanley, get out here right now. Was it you who's been spreading rumors about Kiki? You'll regret this. I need to speak with you alone, then you'll see what a despicable piece of work you really are. Sterling let out a cold sneer. A private talk. Auntie, haven't you had enough alone time with my father? The mother-in-law's face turned pale. What do you mean by that? You know exactly what I mean. Stanley let out a sigh in the room. Susan, I haven't been spreading rumors. What would I gain from that? I've lived half my life. I have my pride too. Sterling sneered. You call this having pride? Is this how someone with pride spends every day fooling around outside, driving my mother to an early grave? Listen, Stanley, you blew through the $1 million that was rightfully mine. Now I can't afford to get married, and you're going to have to answer for this. Sterling sized up Kiki from the doorway. Kiki, since your reputation's already ruined and no one else will have you, I'll just have to bite the bullet and marry you myself. 12. The mother-in-law clutched her wound, her jaw dropping in disbelief at his words. What did you say? You want to marry Kiki? Sterling said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Kiki already took the $1 million I saved for a bride, so she has to marry me. No way. Absolutely not. The mother-in-law exclaimed. I won't allow it. I agree. The father-in-law came over. Susan, you're being too rash. We're lucky our daughter can even find someone willing to marry her. Let's pick an auspicious date for the children as soon as possible. Susan was so overwhelmed with panic and fury that she fainted on the spot. When the elderly lady gradually regained consciousness in the hospital room, the first thing she saw upon opening her eyes was Sterling holding Kiki's hand, with Kiki blushing in bashful delight. She nearly fainted again. Sterling is 8 years older than her sister-in-law. When Kiki was little, she always tagged along after Sterling. Sterling took advantage of Stanley having some money. He was decked out in designer brands from head to toe, which gave him an air of aristocratic refinement, yet it was precisely this carefree, nonchalant vibe that proved irresistibly attractive to girls fresh out of school. Kiki only hesitated for a few seconds before saying yes. What else can I do? I'm out of options. She even ended up comforting her mother-in-law instead. I'm just grateful Sterling doesn't hold it against me, what his father did to me. Honestly, I've had a crush on Sterling since we were kids. Marrying him now feels like a dream come true. No one noticed the venomous glint in my father-in-law's eyes. He chimed in cheerfully. How wonderful, a blessing in disguise. Susan, I've noticed since they were kids you always encouraged Kiki and Sterling to play together. This practically counts as an arranged childhood marriage. 13. The mother-in-law seemed utterly stunned, staring blankly at everyone. Suddenly she could no longer contain herself and let out a hoarse, piercing scream. You can't get married. How could siblings possibly marry each other? 14. Susan finally admitted it. In her youth, she looked down on her husband for being incompetent and not earning enough. She ended up having an affair with their neighbor Stanley. Kiki is actually Stanley's child. Susan knelt before him, relentlessly slapping her own face. Kenneth, I'm so sorry. Kenneth, all these years I've wanted to tell you, but I never found the courage. The old man crouched in the corner, head bowed as he smoked, enduring the loud slaps from his wife without looking up. Susan, back in my younger days, I worked myself to the bone at construction sites every day, only to come home and do your laundry and cook your meals. I never even let you lift a finger around the house, and I gave you every penny I ever earned. You've been cheating on me for years behind my back. You're downright vicious. Susan broke down sobbing. Yes, I'm despicable. I deserve this. So my daughter was raped by her own father, and now she has to marry her brother. This is all my fault. Heavens, I don't want to live anymore. Let all punishments fall upon me. The father-in-law let out a cold sneer. The heavens have eyes. Everything happening to you now is you're just desserts. Sterling spat in disgust after hearing this. Ugh, what a damn buzzkill. What the hell is this all about? He stormed off in a huff. Ryan punched the wall in frustration. Kiki buried her face in her hands and wept. You've squandered all my money and ruined my love life. I hate you all. 15. Stanley learned that the woman he had raped was actually his own daughter. He said nothing. He jumped into the moat and wasn't found until 3 days later. 16. On the day Kiki went hiking to clear her mind, I knew she had completely turned to the dark side. I'm going to exact revenge the same way I did in my past life. I've made plans to grab dinner with friends after work. Whoever wants to eat those poisonous mushrooms can be my guest. I'm having hot pot with my colleagues right now. A colleague sigh. News report, a family of 4 was poisoned after consuming highly toxic mushrooms, resulting in the immediate deaths of the mother and son. A resident from a certain community in our city picked mushrooms in the mountains. After cooking and eating them that evening, all 4 family members were poisoned, while the daughter and father suffered milder poisoning. The son and mother died on the spot. Yvonne, I remember you live in that neighborhood. I watched the video on her phone. My sister in-law was in tears during the interview. I had no idea those mushrooms were poisonous. They just looked pretty, so I picked them for fun. How was I supposed to know my mom would use them to make soup? 17. On the very day of my husband and mother-in-law's funeral, I was utterly heartbroken, crying my eyes out. I see his face every time I open or close my eyes. I can't sleep. I just can't fall asleep at all. We've always wanted a child. Just the other day I thought I was pregnant, but it turned out to be a false alarm. If only Ryan had left me with a child, I'd have something to live for in my later years. Friends and relatives had cried their eyes out. Some who knew about his history with Chinfeng. He seemed to hesitate. Then seeing my grief, his own regret deepened on my behalf. The road ahead is still long. You must live it well. I nodded. Yes, I will live it well. After all, when my husband passed away, he surely wanted me to live a happy and fulfilling life. My father in-law and sister-in-law were nowhere to be found. Someone went to look for them, and the main door at home was locked from the inside. The ground floor of our apartment complex opens onto a bustling commercial street. The street is lined with shops on both sides, teeming with crowds of people. Suddenly, a disheveled figure plummeted from above and crashed heavily to the ground. Kiki lay on the ground, her skull shattered and eyes wide open in death. When the police showed up at the door, the father-in-law was calmly smoking in bed, watching the video he had just recorded. Take a look. This is the daughter I've raised for over a decade. I raised someone else's daughter all these years. I deserve a little interest for my trouble. He boasted triumphantly to the police, detailing how he administered the knockout drug to Stanley and projected the video onto Stanley's home television. This was my revenge. After playing it safe all these years, I'm going all in on one big move. Kenneth was sentenced to death. With immediate execution, I inherited the entire estate, though it brought me no joy. The marital home, my in-laws' house, their death benefits and savings, and of course, the $1,000,000 bride price for my sister-in-law. Altogether it adds up to 5 or 6 million. In our third-tier city, that's enough to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. Chinfeng came to see me and said she paid for Ryan's wedding home. She covered all the expenses for the renovation and furniture. Even the car Ryan bought me was charged to her credit card. I thanked her graciously. That's my husband's hard-earned money, his well-deserved compensation. Chinfeng threatened to sue me if I didn't return it to her. I explained the legal provisions to her. Unless you explicitly stated that the properties and vehicles were gifts solely to my husband, they're considered marital assets. When he passed away, those assets rightfully became mine. You support my husband, and my husband supports me. Perfectly fair arrangement. She still wouldn't let it go. I showed her a video clip. Sister Chen, what do you think the licensing fee should be for my little film here? 5 million, in cash, or I'll send it to your son, your husband, your employees, your business partners, until your reputation is completely destroyed. Chinfeng completely broke down. You're utterly despicable. I burst out laughing. How dare a woman like you accuse me of being despicable? I have no family ties or attachments holding me back, and the best part is, I have no shame. I'm sticking to you like glue for life. From now on, you better make good money, Chin. I've always been a big spender, and when I run out of cash, I'm coming straight to you. Don't you dare change your number or move house. If I can't find you, I'll panic and start rallying people online, and you don't want that drama." Chin Feng lunged at me, ready to scratch my eyes out, but my chiseled, 8-pack bodyguard swiftly pinned her down. I laughed even more heartily. "Ms. Chin, let's meet at 8 tonight, no backing out." 18. Chin Feng's 5 million has been delivered on time. I sold both my house and car and moved to the city I'd always dreamed of with 10 million in savings. From now on, I'm going to treat myself right. I'll eat what I crave, meet who I want to see, and do what brings me joy. Flowers will bloom all along the path, and so will the journey that lies ahead of me. Story 2. In this human-dominated world, orcs are mere playthings. A year ago, my white snake orc ran away, proud and beautiful like untouchable snow, yet I foolishly kept that empty terrarium as if he might return, until I met a black serpent at the orc market. He's extremely timid, but at least he's well behaved. Over here, Fiora. Jade waved at me from the orc market entrance. Wearing staff uniform, I pushed through the crowd, the air thick with the distinct scent of orcs, a mix of disinfectant and fear. "I told you I was just here to look around." Jade rolled her eyes. "Come on. Your place is emptier than a haunted house. Last time I visited, nobody even offered me a cup of tea." I followed her down the hallway in silence. The orc market was more crowded than I'd imagined. Neat rows of cages held all kinds of orcs. "One, we just got a new batch of beastmen in today, and there's a rare black king snake among them. You were the first person who came to mind. Over here." Jade pulled me into a secluded corner, pointing to a waist-high glass enclosure in the very back. "That's him." I took a few steps closer. In the corner of the enclosure was a dark shadow. His upper body was human-like, with skin so pale it was almost translucent, a stark contrast to his jet-black scales. His lower half was a long, slender snake tail, currently coiled tightly. His head was bowed, long black hair falling to obscure his face. All I could see were his slender shoulders. Trembling slightly, I crouched down, trying to get a better look at his face. Unfortunately, the serpent coiled even tighter. I noticed a small white pattern at the tip of his tail, shaped like a snowflake. "Is he afraid of people?" I turned to Jade. Jade shrugged, terrified beyond normal. "Other beastmen at least put on a brave front, but this one won't even fight back. When caught, he just curls up shaking, won't even bare his fangs." She tapped the glass. "See, even this scares him." Indeed, the black snake beastman curled up even tighter, burying his face in his arms, the tip of his tail twitching restlessly. "That's just too timid." I frowned, turning to look at Jade beside me. Jade twirled a strand of her hair around her finger. "Isn't that good? Much more docile than that white snake you had before." Hearing the words white snake, I couldn't help but frown. It's been a year since that bastard escaped, yet every time I think about it, this inexplicable rage still boils in my chest. Jade realized her verbal misstep, cleared her throat, and got straight to the point. "He's being sent to the Colosseum tomorrow." The Colosseum, that was the orcs' hell, forced to slaughter each other for human entertainment until death. The black-scaled orc seemed to understand our conversation. He suddenly lifted his head, a flicker of despair flashing through his gray eyes. Then, to my shock, he slowly uncoiled his body and pressed a trembling palm against the glass, giving me a pleading look, as if possessed. I reached out too, matching his palm against the glass. As I moved, my sleeve slipped back, revealing a distinct scar on my wrist, the mark left when my white snake first arrived and bit me in distress. "What do you think? Gorgeous, isn't he? Purebred black king snake, male, but top-tier quality." "How much?" I asked, my eyes still fixed on the black serpent in the glass enclosure. He had withdrawn his hand and curled up again, but his eyes remained fixed on me, as if gauging my sincerity, given his condition. 3,000 credits should suffice. The paperwork went smoother than expected. The market supervisor was overjoyed to find someone willing to buy this defective product, even offering an automatic 20% discount. As I signed the final document, an attendant had already brought out the black snake hybrid using specialized restraints. Up close, he appeared even more emaciated, his waist so slender I could encircle it with one hand. The handler yanked his arm roughly, making him flinch in pain. He dared not resist, only dragging his tail helplessly across the floor. "Easy now." I couldn't help but speak up. The staff member gave me a surprised look, but loosened their grip. "This is a control bracelet." Jade handed me a black metal band. "If he tries to attack you, pressing this button will release an electric shock." I took the bracelet but hesitated to put it on Black Snake. He knelt on the ground with his head bowed, long hair obscuring his face. "Look up," I murmured softly. After a moment's hesitation, he slowly raised his face. In the sunlight, his gray pupils contracted to thin slits, his faintly pink lips were nervously worrying his lower lip. "Can you speak?" I asked. He nodded, then shook his head. "It's all right. From now on, you belong to me." I kept my voice gentle. "I won't hurt you, as long as you behave, understand?" He nodded, with an unreadable glint in his eyes. "At least put a control bracelet on him, Fiora," Jade said with concern. I hesitated for a moment before picking up the bracelet. The black snake beastman visibly flinched at the sight of it, yet still extended his trembling wrist. "It won't hurt," I reassured softly. "Just a precaution." I fastened the bracelet around his slender wrist, noticing the old scars encircling it like marks from prolonged restraint. The black snake was visibly tense when we arrived home. As I opened the door, he hesitated on the threshold, unwilling to step inside. "Come in," I encouraged him. "This is your new home now." He slipped through the door cautiously, then froze the moment he stepped inside, his eyes locked onto the massive terrarium on the living room wall where the white serpent once lived. Noticing his hesitation, I explained, "That was for the snake person I used to keep. The house is spacious enough anyway. The oversized enclosure doesn't get in the way, so I've just left it there. I won't lie. At first I clung to the naive hope that he might come back. It's all right, this place is safe." I tried to remove the collar around his neck, but he shied away, hissing as both hands flew up to protect it. With a sigh, I abandoned the attempt. For now, to him, the collar might actually represent a sense of security. At least it shows he's a claimed beastman who won't be randomly captured. This is the living room. That's the kitchen. I moved slowly, making sure he could always see me. "The bathroom's over there. And your room, well, would the couch be okay for now? We do have a guest room, but it's completely packed with my stuff." This was so sudden, I never actually expected to come home with a snake beast man. "I've already ordered a terrarium that should arrive by tomorrow at the earliest." The black serpent's eyes followed my finger, his expression blank. When I pointed toward the couch, he suddenly prostrated himself, forehead pressed to the floor, tail coiled tightly against his side. No, I didn't mean right now. Never mind." I massaged my temples. "Albus behaved exactly like this when he first arrived. The orc market's training conditioned them to interpret every gesture as a command." "Oh, the white serpent's name is Albus, a truly magnificent snake. Would you like something to drink? Water? Milk?" No response. The black serpent remained motionless in its kneeling posture, only the white speck at the tip of its tail quivering faintly like a snowflake trembling in the wind. I went to the kitchen and poured a glass of lukewarm water. When I returned, I noticed the black serpent had slightly raised its head, stealthily surveying the living room. The moment our eyes met, he immediately crouched lower, emitting a soft whimper from his throat. "Here." I placed the water glass on the floor before him, stepping back a few paces to show I meant no harm. The black snake warily eyed the glass, then glanced back at me. A full minute passed before he extended his slender fingers, tentatively touching the cup's rim with his fingertips. The warm water seemed to ease his tension slightly, and he cradled the cup in both hands, taking small, careful sips. "I'll fetch you a blanket." I turned toward the storage room, deliberately slowing my pace so he could clearly see my movements. When I returned with the blanket, the cup stood empty. The black serpent had resumed its coiled posture, though this time its tail lay more relaxed, loosely draped across the floor. I placed the blanket on the couch and spoke in the calmest tone I could muster. "You can rest now. I'll be in the next room. Just, knock on the wall if you need anything." Clearly, these instructions were too complicated for the black serpent. He tilted his head in confusion, the gesture making him look surprisingly young. It suddenly hit me that he might have just come of age, or even be younger. It's hard to tell the age of orcs in the wild. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Buying the black snake was an impulse, but I don't regret it. Perhaps it was the snowflake-like white patch on his tail, or maybe just the weariness of dining alone night after night. A piercing shriek jolted me awake in the dead of night. I rushed into the living room to find the black snake frantically clawing at the couch cushions, its gray eyes wide with terror. At the sight of me, he immediately tumbled off the sofa and curled into a trembling ball in the corner. "What's wrong? Bad dream?" I approached cautiously and found his body icy cold, scales slightly bristling. The black serpent didn't respond, just buried his face in his arms with his tail tightly coiled around his waist. I noticed several claw marks on the couch cushions, stuffing scattered everywhere. "Wait for me a second." I walked into the kitchen and poured another glass of warm water. This time I added a spoonful of honey. Albus is such a picky drinker, he'll only have milk, and demands honey in his water. The black snake had calmed down somewhat by the time I returned to the living room. He took the water glass more deftly than before, not even flinching when I reached to stroke his hair. His hair was softer than I'd imagined. I'd completely forgotten the care manuals instruction. Newly acquired snakes need 3 days of undisturbed rest, preferably without handling. "Sleep now. I'll be right here." I settled onto the carpet beside the sofa, leaning my back against its armrest. The black snake watched me with puzzled eyes, its tail unconsciously tracing circles on the floor. After what felt like ages, I drowsily sensed something cold brush against my hand. Opening my eyes, I found the black snake's tail tip resting lightly on my wrist, its white markings perfectly covering the bite mark Albus had left. I turned my palm upward, letting his tail settle into my hand. The serpent didn't withdraw its tail, only giving a faint tremble. Seated at my desk, my fingers danced across the virtual keyboard, constructing some client's digital universe. 3. A faint rustling of scales sounded behind me. Swiveling my chair, I found the black snake had woken unnoticed, his gaze locked onto the torn couch in the living room, pupils contracting violently as his slender Body began trembling uncontrollably following his line of sight. I saw the couch stuffing scattered across the floor, still untouched from the earlier incident. Come here. The black serpent froze, its tail scraping faintly against the floor. In the end, instinctive obedience to command overcame fear. It slowly uncoiled, belly scales whispering against the wooden planks. When it rose to full height, I caught my breath with his snake tail. He was easily over 2 meters long, and the shadow he cast completely enveloped my desk chair. I looked up at him, and sensing my gaze, he slowly lowered himself, his snake tail dragging a long line on the floor. He continued until his head was at my chest level, then looked up at me. A strand of dark hair fell beside his pale cheek. I instinctively reached out to brush it away, but he suddenly closed his eyes and recoiled his neck, as if bracing for a slap. The expected pain never came. The black serpent cautiously opened its eyes, confusion flickering in its gaze. I reached up and gently stroked its hair. It's all right, just a couch cushion. I was planning to replace it anyway. The serpent locked eyes with me, seemingly moved by the sincerity in my gaze. Its body gradually relaxed, yet his gaze kept shifting between me and the torn sofa. Hungry, I changed the subject. Want to grab something to eat. After the meal, the black serpent curled at my feet, fingers idly toying with the desk's fringe. His movements were feather-light, as if afraid to disturb something. Those gray-slit pupils remained fixed on the swaying tassel, the tip of his tail curling slightly, occasionally darting forward for an experimental tap before recoiling swiftly, as though it were some dangerous creature. I couldn't help but chuckle, reaching out to ruffle his hair. He froze abruptly, lifting his gaze to meet mine, eyes clouded with confusion and the faintest glimmer of hope. You like this? I tugged at the fringe of the desk cloth, making it sway more vigorously. The black snake's tail instinctively coiled around my ankle, its cool scales pressing against my skin with an unexpectedly soothing touch. He didn't respond, maybe out of fear, or perhaps he simply didn't know how to answer. The curiosity sparkling in his eyes convinced me he didn't dislike this place. At least, in the following days, the black snake grew less timid than before, gradually adapting to its new surroundings. The terrarium was set up, though he rarely slept there, sometimes curling on the new sofa, other times by my bedroom door, never crossing the threshold unless invited. He even began uttering a few scattered words, leaning against the railing. I could see through the floor-to-ceiling window. The black serpent coiled on the living room carpet, clumsily fumbling with the TV remote. Jade's voice came through the phone. So the black snake still can't shapeshift? Nope, not even attempting to. Normally, an adult serpent folk should master voluntary transformation within days of acclimating. Albus back then was far more troublesome than this one, yet he took human form in just 3 days. Just wait a moment, Jade said before the line went silent. I checked the records. There's no mention of any special circumstances with him. Keep observing for now, and we can process a return if issues persist. After hanging up, I lingered on the balcony a while longer to collect my thoughts. When I slid open the glass door, the black snake had already turned off the TV and coiled neatly by the coffee table. Ever since he noticed my love for tea, he'd prepare the tea set daily. Thanks, little snake. I ruffled his hair as a reward. The black snake raised its head slightly, its forked tongue flickering across its lips. Master, the tea had steeped a bit too strong, but I took a large gulp anyway. The black serpent studied my expression, and its shoulders visibly relaxed when it detected no displeasure. Little snake, I set down the teacup. Can you attempt shapeshifting? I mean, taking human form, after several long minutes when my patience was wearing thin? The black serpent finally murmured, No, can't, it hurts. The answer shocked me. Shapeshifting should be as natural as breathing for beast folk. How could it be painful? I grasped his icy fingers. Why does shapeshifting hurt you? The black serpent released my hand and recoiled to the far end of the couch, its tail coiling into a defensive loop. He refused to speak again, simply staring at the tip of his tail where the white markings resembled a small scar under the dim light. I didn't press him. After about half an hour, the black serpent gradually relaxed, pretending to focus on my book. I caught him secretly watching me from the corner of my eye. As I turned a page, he suddenly moved, slithering soundlessly across the carpet. His head came to rest on my lap as his cool tail cautiously coiled around my calf. Master wants to see little snake transform, he spoke haltingly, each word seeming to be forced through clenched teeth. After a brief silence, I replied, Only when you're willing, only if it doesn't hurt. The black serpent blinked in confusion, as if unable to comprehend why I'd care about his pain. Jade brought her beastman over to my place to hang out, mainly came to check out what's up with this snake. Her beastman is a 6 feet 3 inches werewolf, but Jade's trained him to behave like a lapdog. The black snake was a bit intimidating, but a beastman's conduct reflects on their master. Any misbehavior would just show poor upbringing, so, even though black snake was scared, he just stood quietly behind me, his fingers clutching at my clothes. Alpha, say hello, Jade ordered without turning around. The werewolf immediately crawled forward, lightly touching the tip of my shoe with his forehead. Good day, Miss G. I gave a noncommittal in response. Truth be told, Jade's approach represents the norm in human-orc interactions. My situation is rather exceptional. The black serpent gaped, its gray eyes widening into perfect circles. Do we really have 2. He released his grip on my sleeve and tried to crouch like a werewolf, but I gently pressed down on his shoulder. Just nod will do. The black serpent blinked and inclined its head. Greetings, Miss Jade. For the voice was soft, yet perfectly clear. She leaned closer to the black serpent. So you can talk now. The serpent startled, nearly losing its balance. I stepped between them. He doesn't like this. TCH, you're spoiling him. Jade pursed her lips. No wonder Albus ran off. How could anyone keep them in line with this kind of leniency? But Jade only dared to grumble inwardly, including its serpentine body. The black snake stood over 2 meters tall, yet it was trying its best to stay inconspicuous. I gave the black snake a reassuring glance. Go prepare some tea. He immediately slid toward the kitchen, his tail quivering slightly with nervousness. Jade sprawled unceremoniously in the center of the couch. The werewolf curled at her feet. TSK, 60,000 credits apiece. That's half a year of my salary. You're really splurging, Jade remarked, nudging the werewolf with her toe. Our Alpha here is much cheaper to keep. Alpha nuzzled her leg in response. After Jade kicked him lightly, he froze in place. I knew she was talking about the 2 terrariums in the living room. The Albus one was purchased for Jade 2 years ago. The price has gone up this year, now costing 80,000. By the way, haven't you given him a name yet? The question caught me off guard. Giving a name would mean forming an attachment. The name Albus holds so many memories for me. I stubbornly retorted. What's wrong with Little Snake? Jade's words still echoed in my ears. She examined it. The black serpent was perfectly fine. Probably just didn't want to shapeshift. I've always gone with the flow. Whether he transforms or not, I'll keep taking care of him. Yet in the dead of night, I still can't help but think of Albus. The black snake's been acting strange lately. It used to spend little time in the terrarium, but now it's curled up in there around the clock, refusing food and water. It finally dawned on me. My little serpent seems upset. He curled up into a grumpy ball and gave me the silent treatment. This experience really depends on Albus. He's the most stubborn creature I've ever encountered in my life. Well, to be fair, I've only ever had 2 pets. I walked over to the terrarium and tapped on the glass. Little Snake, no response. Come out and eat something. Will you? I softened my voice. I got you fresh rabbit meat. Still no reaction. Little Snake. My voice turned icy. Just because I can coax doesn't mean I will. The black snake's tail tip finally twitched, yet it refused to raise its head. Its long hair cascaded down, veiling the entire face, leaving only a pale nape exposed. I commanded, come out. Just as expected, he showed up after all. What's with the tantrum? Black Snake's body visibly stiffened, his fingers twisting together, his lips quivered slightly, but no sound came out. I sighed and reached to ruffle his hair, but he abruptly dodged. The uncharacteristic reaction left me frozen in place. Albus, the black serpent slowly uncoiled, its eyes reminding me of a rain-soaked creature, damp and brimming with unspoken sorrow. Master, misses him. That name suddenly made sense of the serpent's abrupt melancholy. Jade and I had talked at length that day. Who knows how much it overheard? No, I reflexively denied. The word stuck in my throat, defying explanation. Should I tell him that every time I see that snowflake-like white patch, I'm reminded of another snake? Seeing I'd fallen silent, the black serpent lowered its head. Look up. I crouched down and gently lifted his chin. His eyes brimmed with tears, yet he dared not let them fall. He's not here anymore. He left me. The black serpent blinked, tears rolling down. 5. You sad? That simple question hit me hard. For a whole year, no one ever asked if I was sad about the white serpent's departure. People just said, a snake beast man will always be a snake beast man. You can never tame their nature. Yes, I admitted honestly. It broke my heart. The black serpent fell silent for a moment, then did something I never saw coming. He rested his head gently on my lap, murmuring like one would to a child, Little Snake, won't leave master. Was that a promise, or just consolation? Yet the cool touch of his scales through the fabric somehow brought me peace. Since when did he become the one comforting me? Shouldn't he be the one feeling wrong? The black serpent was easily appeased, reverting to its soft, gullible fool of a self. Lately it's become unusually clingy though. At first I didn't pay much attention, until one late night when I was startled awake by faint rustling sounds. I opened my eyes to find the black serpent had slipped into my bedroom unnoticed. Coiled at the foot of the bed with its tail twitching restlessly against the carpet, his cheeks burned with unnatural fever, breath coming in short gasps as his fingers clutched the sheets. Little Snake, master. His voice came out hoarse, trembling in a way I'd never heard before. It hurts. I snapped wide awake. The orc's mating season. Come here. I lifted a corner of the blanket. The black serpent hesitated before slowly slithering onto the bed. His body felt warmer than usual as he curled up cautiously beside me, his tail unconsciously coiling around my calf, tightening its grip with each passing moment. Easy there, I said. Giving his tail a gentle pat, he immediately loosened his hold, though his body still trembled slightly. "Need some help?" I whispered. The little snake's eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't understood me, but soon, his body involuntarily coiled up again, and a low whimper escaped his throat. I reached out and touched his waist, where his scales were slightly parting, emitting a unique, musky scent. The black snake trembled violently, his fingers clenching the bedsheet. "Relax," I whispered, my fingertips gently tracing the pattern of his scales, $$$$W hashtag, ugh, I'm so mad, I'll just leave a comment. The little snake's heat cycle lasted a full week. Throughout that week, he clung to me almost constantly, his body temperature fluctuating wildly, and his emotions becoming incredibly sensitive. It wasn't until the morning of the 8th day that I woke up to find the spot beside my bed empty. The little snake was gone. The little snake. I threw back the covers, looked around, and finally found him in his terrarium. He was curled up in the furthest corner, completely wrapped in a blanket, with only his eyes peeking out, watching me with a mix of wariness and unease. "What's wrong?" I tapped on the glass. He shook his head, refusing to come out. I simply opened the terrarium door and reached for the tip of his tail. Normally he'd obediently slide out with my pull, but today he suddenly recoiled with a low hiss in his throat. I frowned, not feeling well. After a moment's silence, he gradually loosened the blanket, revealing half of his pale face. "Changed," he murmured. "What changed?" He hesitated for a moment before slowly pulling back the blanket. Beneath it lay no serpent's tail, but a pair of human legs, slender and pale, with knees faintly flushed pink, ankles so delicate they seemed fragile as glass. The transformation was complete. He stared intently at my expression, as if terrified to see a flicker of disgust. When I remained silent, he fumbled to cover himself again, but I caught his wrist. "Don't move," I murmured. "Let me look." He froze, the tips of his ears flushing crimson, yet obediently loosened the blanket. I studied his new form carefully. His lower body had fully transformed into human shape, with smooth, delicate skin. Only a few lingering black scales remained on his inner thighs like mysterious tattoos. I reached up to touch his calf, warm, soft, indistinguishable from human flesh. The little serpent shivered slightly, his toes curling reflexively. This undoubtedly awakened that hidden side of me, but reason kept me in check. I grabbed his ankle and pulled him out, startling a gasp from him. I held him securely in my arms. 6. The little serpent wrapped his legs tightly around my waist, clinging to me with his arms around my neck, face buried in the crook of my shoulder as he panted, "Master, do you like your little snake like this?" "I do," I heard myself say. Albus' terrarium had sat in the living room for a full year, though little snake never mentioned it. His gaze would always instinctively avert whenever passing by that direction, until one morning when I woke to find little snake standing motionless before the terrarium and maintaining his human form, his slender fingers pressed lightly against the glass as his gray pupils contracted slightly, as if seeing something beyond the empty tank that remained invisible to me. "Little snake," he jolted back to awareness, withdrawing his hand guiltily like a child caught misbehaving before bowing his head. "Master." I walked over and followed his gaze toward the terrarium. It stood completely empty, with only a thin layer of dust remaining. "Don't like it being here?" I asked. The little serpent pursed his lips, remaining silent. That was answer enough. I ruffled his hair. "We'll change it then." His head jerked up, eyes widening. "Really? Of course," I chuckled. "It's your place, do whatever you want with it." His pupils dilated slightly, as if surprised by how readily I agreed. That afternoon, I called the recycling company. The two workers swiftly dismantled the massive terrarium. As they carried it out, little snake stood behind me, fingers clutching the hem of my shirt, his gaze fixed on the receding glass enclosure until it vanished completely into the elevator. "All done." I turned and gently pinched his earlobe. "Now that we've got this empty space, what would you like to put here?" Little snake seemed still dazed. After a few seconds, he murmured, "Can we get a climbing wall?" "A climbing wall." He nodded eagerly, eyes sparkling, like vines in the forest, perfect for coiling around, just like a snake's nature, always drawn to climbable things. "All right, I'll have someone install it tomorrow." 3 days later, the spot where the terrarium once stood had transformed into a massive ecological climbing wall. Interwoven dark brown artificial tree trunks were draped with soft vines and broadleafed plants, topped with a miniature misting system that periodically released water vapor to recreate rainforest conditions. The little snake froze in awe at first sight. He practically dashed over in excitement, fingertips gently tracing the vines. "Is this really okay?" He turned to look at me, his voice trembling with disbelieving excitement. "Wanna try?" I raised an eyebrow. In the next instant, the little serpent morphed into a half-human hybrid and nimbly darted upward. In mere seconds, it scaled to the highest point, coiled its tail around a crossbar, and hung upside down grinning at me. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating the pure joy dancing in his eyes. The house is finally free of Albus's presence. The little snake loves climbing walls, and I adore him for it. The snake prefers me more. Snakes are inherently lustful creatures, so when I deliberately tempt him, he indulges my every whim, and just like that, we spend another month living shamelessly. Until that rainy night, I was working on some documents when a muffled Thunder rumbled across the sky. A little snake had been playing on the rug at my feet. When suddenly he froze, his body stiffening, he snapped his head up towards the balcony, his pupils narrowing into slits. What's wrong? I set down my pen. He silently transformed into serpent form, blocking my path with his tail rigid and a low hiss rumbling in his throat. This was a defensive stance. The next instant, the glass balcony door rattled under sudden impact. Tap, tap, tap. My blood ran cold. That's his signature move, always taking unconventional routes home. Little snake clearly sensed something was off. He turned to me with confusion in his eyes. I took a deep breath and walked toward the balcony. Just as my fingers touched the door handle, a bolt of lightning split the night sky, illuminating the figure outside. Silvery white hair, golden slit pupils, and that achingly familiar face. Albus. He was drenched, his thin shirt clinging to his skin. When he saw me, his lips curled into a smile before he practically threw himself at me. Fiora, I'm back. His voice was far hoarser than I remembered, yet it pierced my heart with surgical precision. The little serpent had slithered behind me unnoticed, tiny fingers clutching desperately at my hem. I could feel his body trembling faintly, his serpentine tail pressed rigidly against my calf. Albus' gaze swept past me, settling on the little snake. Oh, he arched an eyebrow. New pet. 7. The serpent let out a soft hiss from its throat, part warning, part fear. Albus smiled. He reached out to touch the little snake's head, but I instantly seized his wrist. What are you doing here? My voice sounded unnaturally icy. Albus froze momentarily before slipping back into his usual careless demeanor. Missed you. Is that a crime? He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. Or has Fiora forgotten me already? The snake's tail suddenly constricted, squeezing me painfully tight. I shook off Albus' hand. We're through. A crack finally appeared in Albus' composed expression. I got hurt, he said abruptly, pointing to the scar by his eye. It's dangerous out there, Fiora. His voice trailed off, carrying a fragility I'd never heard before. Can I come back? The night grew late. The little serpent curled beside me, his fingers brushing lightly against my wrist. Master, I'll be good, he whispered with a tinge of uncertainty. So please don't abandon me, Master. Promise. My heart ached as I turned to embrace him. Never. He clung to me desperately, his cool tail coiling around my waist as if fearing I'd vanished the moment he loosened his grip. The rain continues to fall outside the window. I lie in bed, wide awake. Little snake has fallen asleep, but his brow remains slightly furrowed. Gently freeing my arm from under him, I slip out of bed and head to the living room. Didn't expect someone to be on the balcony already. Albus sat alone on the windowsill, moonlight glinting off his silver white hair and scales, making him look like an ice-cold statue. Without turning, he murmured, "Can't sleep." After a moment's hesitation, I walked over to join him. We sat in silence, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. Why did you leave? I finally asked the question that had been weighing on me for a year. Albus's expression froze. Because I was stupid, he murmured, his lips twisting into a self-deprecating smile. I thought it'd be freer out there. I scoffed coldly. In this world, orcs were never considered people. They were merely property, legally classified as special assets. They held no more rights than pets, furniture, or collectibles, no citizenship, no free will. Even their right to life depended on their owner's whim. They could be bought and sold, discarded, or destroyed at will. Heard you got yourself a black snake. I leaned against the window frame, the night breeze carrying post-rain moisture brushing against my cheeks, and he suddenly chuckled. So I came to see what little creature could make you forget about me so quickly. I stayed silent for a moment. You left first. I regret it. Okay, he said. I turned away. Too late for that now. I've already got little snake. Not too late. He suddenly grabbed my wrist with such force it made me wince. Fiora, look, I'm hurt. He dragged my hand to his waist, where a vicious scar ran across, as if slashed by some sharp blade. When I was nearly dying, you were all I could think about. His voice dropped. I thought, what a waste if I died like this. Without you even seeing my body. I pulled my hand back. He always knew exactly how to melt my resolve. Albus seized the moment to inch closer. Let me come back, won't you? I promise. I'll behave this time. His pleading tone was unrecognizable from the haughty white serpent in my memories. Leave when the rain stops, I said. How cruel you are, Fiora. He slid off the windowsill. Good night, Master. Early the next morning, I looked out the window. The rain keeps drizzling on. Seems we're right in the middle of the rainy season. I can't decide whether to feel relieved or disappointed. The guest room stayed eerily quiet all day. When I pushed the door open, it was completely empty. Albus left after all, just like a year ago. It happened without a sound. The following days returned to tranquility, as if Albus had never existed. The only difference was the little snake becoming more clingy and more unruly. The news of Albus's death came suddenly. Jade showed up at my doorstep unexpectedly, her face unusually grim, clutching a manila envelope Fiora, she hesitated for a moment. You need to see this. Inside the envelope were a death certificate and several photographs. In the photo, Albus lay on the cold autopsy table, his silver-white hair splayed out, withered, shattered. The date showed he died 3 nights after that rainstorm date. I stared at the photo, fingers tightening unconsciously, creasing the edges of the paper. What's going on? You know how hard it is for an unclaimed orc to survive out there. He got captured by the Black Market fighting pits this past year, took fatal wounds in his last match. The silence stretched so long I saw Jade nervously twisting her fingers. Did he leave any last words? Jade shook her head. No. But, she hesitated, he was clutching this when he died. She pulled a small object from her pocket, a silver serpent ring, the very one I'd given Albus years ago. Dried blood stained the ring, casting a dull crimson glow under the light. So that night was his farewell. Why didn't I notice anything unusual about him? My chest felt like it was weighed down by a boulder, heavy and suffocating. I buried the ring in the backyard. The little snake suddenly drew closer, its icy cold fingertip brushing against the corner of my wet. He whispered. It was then I realized I was crying. The little snake stared at me for a few seconds, then suddenly transformed into its serpentine form, coiling up my arm, finally settling on my shoulder with its head gently resting against my cheek. My little snake is right here, he nuzzled against me. Always will be. That night, I had a dream. In the dream was Albus from 2 years ago, still curled lazily in his terrarium basking in the sunlight before his escape. Hearing my footsteps, he lifted his head, golden slit-pupiled eyes brimming with affection. Fiora, he called my name, his voice as clear as ever. I reached up to touch him, but the dream shattered abruptly, opening my eyes. I found the little serpent clinging tightly to me, his warmth seeping through the pajamas, comforting and real. Moonlight streamed through the window like liquid silver as I gently returned his embrace, listening to his steady breathing. A sudden realization dawned on me. Some people are like snow, destined to melt away, while others seep quietly into your life, becoming irreplaceable. Story 2. After I died, my childhood friend found a woman who looked very much like me, kept her in the house I had lived in, and showered her with the utmost affection. You might think this is a case of finding a substitute. No. He said he was going to use this body to bring me back to life, but I'm just a short-lived favorite from another story, and she is the heroine that you, the obsessive antagonist, are about to fall in love with. 1. I died due to a sudden car accident. At the funeral, I stared at my tombstone, my face a portrait of tearless sorrow. What happened? Why has the plot advanced so soon? Wasn't I supposed to live until 24? Uncle, please accept my condolences. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind. Turning around, it was my antagonist's childhood friend. I saw my father crying uncontrollably. In contrast, Chiyu was dressed in a well-fitted black suit, his slightly long hair meticulously combed back. His expression was neither sad nor happy, almost serene, so calm that it hardly seemed like his childhood friend had died. Suddenly, I felt a bit angry. Throughout the funeral, I watched everything. When it was Chiyu's turn to burn paper money, as soon as he threw a piece into the fire, I blew it away. He threw another, and I blew it away again. Finally, the area around Chiyu was filled with unburnt paper money, fluttering in the wind around him. Everyone around was shocked by the scene, but Chiyu looked as if he was watching a child play. His eyes even held a hint of indulgence. All right, enough playing. Let's stop now. Don't scare everyone. Hearing this, the faces around grew even more frightened. I snorted softly, reluctantly blowing all the paper money into the fire. When leaving the cemetery, I quickly sneaked into his car when he wasn't paying attention, sensing something. He suddenly looked up at the rearview mirror, caught off guard. I instinctively hid inside a teddy bear placed on the backseat. I heard Chiyu say from the front, "Xiaoqiu, don't you think the teddy bear in the backseat looks particularly cute today?" Through the rearview mirror, I saw the driver's face expressing young master. "You must be talking nonsense from too much grief," and I, hidden inside the teddy bear, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, I'm already a ghost. Even if my face turns red, he can't see it too. As soon as I got out of the car, a bodyguard waiting at home leaned over to whisper something to Chiyu. Then I saw Chiyu slightly curl his lips in praise. Well done. I followed Chiyu into the house, watched as he quickly walked to the study, pushed the books aside, and on the central desk was something wrapped in a white cloth, evoking a familiar sensation. The next second, Chiyu stepped forward and lifted the white cloth. Beneath it was an urn that was supposedly my urn, which should have been buried today. Chiyu holding the urn suddenly burst into laughter. Me, it's done. Chiyu has gone mad. He even stole the urn back. What did I do wrong? Isn't it just that I became his beloved who died early? Did you really need to take the urn too? You're really quite creepy. Perhaps sensing my gaze, Chiyu carefully placed the urn down, walked to the window to draw the curtains of the study, and turned back with his gaze suddenly focusing on me. What's wrong? Are you surprised? He asked with a smile, as if the person who pretended not to see me outside was not him. Still have the nerve to ask what's wrong? I looked at Chiyu with a heavy heart. How could you even steal an urn? Chiyu, face reality. I'm already dead. There's no need to steal back the urn as a keepsake. A keepsake? Chiyu seemed amused by the idea and shook his head. Yo Chi, what are you thinking about? After saying that, he slightly lowered his head, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. I just couldn't bear the thought of you resting in the cold ground. I silently rejoiced that my blushing face couldn't be seen and continued to lecture my rebellious childhood friend. Have you ever thought about what would happen if you fell for another girl and she found out you were keeping your childhood sweetheart's urn? What if she gets upset? No, she won't. What do you mean, she won't? Do you really trust that she'd be that understanding? Chiyu, you better not say yes, or I'll get mad even if she doesn't. That's not it, Chiyu replied with a helpless look. I mean, I won't fall for anyone else. I couldn't help but smile, quickly covering it up with a couple of coughs. How can you be so sure you won't? The other girl is a heartthrob, the heroine with a halo. I just won't. I only love Yoichi. He smiled at me, his eyes seemingly reflecting nothing but my image, though they actually held no reflection. Damn it, he still knows how to make my heart flutter. Alright then, I gave up, not wanting to argue further anyway. The heroine will appear soon. By then, he probably won't remember me at all. 3. It wasn't long before the bodyguard came back in. Young master, we've found her. Good. I saw Chiyu smile broadly at that moment. What was making him so happy? I glanced at the urn on the table and a foreboding feeling surged within me. Yoichi, stay here for a while. I'll be right back, Chiyu instructed before leaving. Got it. Got it. I waved indifferently. As soon as Chiyu left, I slipped out the door and followed him. I kept a careful distance, close enough to see but far enough to remain unnoticed. I saw him get into a car, which headed to a villa in the suburbs. I stopped outside the familiar villa, overwhelmed by emotion. It wouldn't be long before this villa, where I once lived, would become the place where Chiyu confines the heroine. It's here in this villa that Chiyu will completely forget about me, his first love, and fall for the heroine instead. Walking through the villa's gate, I saw Chiyu sitting on the living room sofa as 2 bodyguards brought a girl forward. The girl was dressed in white, wearing a blindfold that revealed just her nose and mouth, which looked so familiar. Chiyu's eyes lit up at the sight of her, and at that moment, seeing the girl, my heart sank. Take off the blindfold, Chiyu commanded eagerly. The bodyguards did as told, and as the sunlight hit her face, the girl squinted uncomfortably, her brow slightly furrowed. When she opened her eyes again, that familiar face made Chiyu, who was sitting on the sofa, look utterly wild. You see, just as I thought, it's all part of the plot. Irresistible looking at that familiar face, my heart felt sour. Hello there, original female lead, Chiyu's future beloved, for the plot has moved forward again. Why, according to the novel, Chiyu should have met the hardworking and thrifty female lead, who was serving as a waitress at a banquet 6 months after my death, but here I am, freshly dead. How did Chiyu come to know of the female lead's existence, and why did he choose to kidnap her like this? I'm full of doubts, and the female lead is obviously even more perplexed. Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? After finally adjusting to the bright lights, Zhu Mingming looked at Chiyu with caution. It doesn't matter who I am. All you need to know is that you have to listen to me and you can't leave this villa, Chiyu said with a smile, his eyes gleaming with madness that I couldn't comprehend. I don't understand, and naturally, Zhu Mingming understands even less. If you're using me to threaten Songqin, you've got the wrong person. He and I are just childhood friends. He won't care about my life or death. The female lead truly lives up to her role, managing to suppress her fear and pretend to be calm even in such a situation. Seeing Chiyu burst out laughing at her words, I couldn't help but facepalm. Songqin, mentioned by the female lead, is the male lead and her childhood friend in the original story, the grand young master of the wealthy Song family who had been lost to the family for 10 years. In the original novel, he would later become Chiyu's rival in the business world, but at this point in time, he had probably just been taken back by the Song family not long ago, not to mention contending with Chiyu. For Chiyu right now, crushing the male lead would be as easy as crushing an ant, and the female lead's idea of using her to threaten the male lead is naturally non-existent. Don't worry, I've investigated you. I know you have a childhood friend who's the recently recovered young master of the Song family, Chiyu said as he walked forward, ignoring Zhu Mingming's resistance and affectionately stroked her right cheek. Ah, such rough skin. It seems your childhood friend has been living the good life, totally neglecting you. Shut up. What right do you have to talk about him like that? Zhu Mingming bristled at his disparagement of Songqin. Rightly so. During this period, the female lead and her childhood friend, the male lead, had mutual feelings for each other. Before being taken back by the Song family, they had even promised to meet again in the future. Yet even so, Chiyu wasn't angered but seemed even more amused. I wouldn't treat my childhood friend like this. I'd buy her the biggest house, the best sports car, clothes and jewelry she likes, and an endless variety of bags and shoes, everything she wants. I'd do my best to provide. Too bad, my Yoichi, she's dead, but it's alright. Heaven has favored me, for I found someone so similar to her in you. 5. Chiyu has fallen for the female lead, just like that. Does the female lead's halo really work that powerfully, knowing that her heart belongs to another? He still falls for her. I don't get it. I'm utterly shocked. Yoichi, after returning to the mansion, the first thing Chiyu did was call out my name. I saw the complex expression on the face of the bodyguard following him, as if pondering whether his young master was talking nonsense in his grief. I won't come out, I'm hiding in the closet of my room. Let him like the female lead. He could have waited for me to have been dead for 6 months, or even a few months later, to start liking her. Here I am, freshly dead. My ashes aren't even cold yet. The urn's still on your bedside, after all these years of affection. How could you be so heartless? Fuming, I curled up in the closet. The room fell silent, and just as I thought Chiyu might have left, suddenly there was a burst of light. The closet door was pulled open. Why are you hiding here? Chiyu asked with a smile. It's almost cheating how cute you are. I've really lost to Chiyu. No one can resist when he acts coquettishly. Didn't the female protagonist in the original story get deceived by his pretense so many times? So, isn't it not surprising that I, too, would be softened by him? Weren't you out? How come you're back so soon? I couldn't help but feel a bit sour, feeling aggrieved because I didn't bring you something tasty, Chiyu said as he reached out to hug me, but it was futile. His hand passed right through my body. Chiyu paused, then gave a forced smile. Chiyu, would you come out, please? His tone was like coaxing a child. You're hiding in the shadows. I can't see you. Chiyu, can you not fall for someone else so quickly? I asked, tilting my head. I told you, I only like you, Chiyu said helplessly. Chiyu, I don't want to be reincarnated, I said earnestly. If I remain a ghost like this, always by your side, would you find me annoying? Would you feel that I'm interfering with your relationship with the female protagonist? No, Chiyu denied outright. Really, liar. You've clearly fallen for the female protagonist already. Well, okay, I'll trust you for now, I said as I floated out of the closet and circled around Chiyu. When I noticed a red mark on his face, I paused and pretended not to see it. If Chiyu didn't want me to know, then I'll pretend I don't know, just like I haven't told Chiyu that the Zhu Mengmeng in the novel is actually my father's illegitimate daughter. How else could it be such a coincidence that she shares my surname and even looks somewhat like me? Simply put, the original novel is a Mary Sue love story about a lost young master from a wealthy family and a rich man's illegitimate daughter. Now that Chiyu has found Zhu Mengmeng, it won't be long before my father discovers Zhu Mengmeng's identity. Then, to save the female protagonist, he and the male protagonist will join forces to suppress Chiyu. In the novel, Chiyu is practically the epitome of a tragically handsome villain. His parents had a business marriage and divorced immediately after completing their duty of having Chiyu. Chiyu was raised by his grandparents and received an elite education typical of a wealthy family, which indirectly led him to develop a deep distrust of others, believing that everyone who approached him had ulterior motives, except for Zhu Youqi. As Chiyu's childhood friend, Zhu Youqi was the only one who could gain Chiyu's unconditional trust. All the highlights of the first half of Chiyu's life almost always featured Zhu Youqi. Thus, after Zhu Youqi's death, Chiyu became so desperate that he used the female protagonist as a substitute, eventually facing ruin and death due to the combined efforts of the male protagonist and the female protagonist's father. From the perspective of the female protagonist and the male protagonist, Chiyu is a madman, but from the reader's omniscient point of view, this villain Chiyu is indeed somewhat pitiable, even though I know he will fall for the female protagonist later on. Still, sometimes I think, if Zhu Youqi in the novel hadn't died, then Chiyu, how happy that would be. At night when I sleep, Chiyu places my urn beside his bed. It's eerie, and he doesn't find it disturbing in the least. I lay beside his bed watching him. What's wrong? Want to hear a story? Chiyu looks at me tenderly. No need. Go to sleep. I blink. Aren't you afraid of having nightmares sleeping next to an urn? Not afraid, Chiyu says as he lies down and covers himself with the blanket, a slight smile forming on his lips. I've seen ghosts. Why would I fear nightmares? It would be even better if I could dream of ghosts. Damn, how can every sentence he says hit me right in the feels? Good night. I'm going to sleep too, I say loudly on purpose. Okay. Good night. Until next time. He pauses, then adds, make sure to dream of me. Though he said that, the next morning, seeing Chiyu sound asleep in bed, I felt like my dignity as a ghost was being trampled on, so I decided to give him a ghost pressing on the bed scare. I controlled Chiyu's body, making sure he was conscious but unable to move, then leaned close to his ear and blew air like in a horror movie, while eerily whispering his name, Chiyu, Chiyu. I saw Chiyu's eyelids twitch as if he wanted to open his eyes, but he was immobilized by the ghost press. I felt somewhat proud and blew even harder. After a while, even Chiyu's ears turned red. Seeing this, I finally satisfied, released my control over him. The first thing Chiyu did upon waking up was to rush into the bathroom, hearing the splashing water. I was a bit puzzled. Was he this keen on cleanliness before? A quarter of an hour later, Chiyu came back looking drenched, and I noticed his body temperature seemed a bit low. It's only early summer. Why are you taking a cold shower so early in the morning? As his childhood friend, I thought it was always important to prioritize physical health. I felt hot. Chiyu spoke up, his voice a bit hoarse. It took me a moment to realize what had happened, catching a glimpse of Chiyu's still slightly red ears and his loose bathrobe. For the N+1 time, I was glad that even if a ghost blushed, it wouldn't show. Damn, horror movies never play out like this. Since that day, Chiyu started visiting the female lead at the villa every now and then. I pretended not to know, but secretly followed him every time. I watched as Chiyu hired a nutritionist to tailor a menu for her, with ingredients freshly flown in daily. He bought her the most expensive skincare, designer bags, and jewelry, and high-end clothes that wouldn't repeat for a year. All the things I once had, he bought for her. The female lead, initially resistant, gradually came to accept them reluctantly. Slowly, her relationship with Chiyu also improved, and she would even complain when Chiyu, busy with work, didn't visit her for days. I was not surprised at all. After all, in the original story, this was where the relationship between the antagonist and the female lead warmed up. With Chiyu's generous spending, in just under a month, the female lead's figure and overall demeanor visibly improved. How frustrating. Is this the so-called female lead halo? I brooded silently. What's wrong? Is it a bit boring to accompany me to work? Chiyu asked with concern when he saw my sullen expression. Oh, a bit, I replied nonchalantly, continuing to feel gloomy. After a while, as I was lying bored at the window, watching the bustling crowd outside, Chiyu suddenly called out to me. What's up? I drifted back to him, then I saw Chiyu holding a freshly folded paper airplane. Do you want to play? He asked with a smile. How many girls would be cheered up by a paper airplane? Sorry. It might seem childish to normal people, but for a ghost, it was just perfect. I was having a blast riding on the airplane. Seeing this, Chiyu put down his work and watched me with a smile. We're really easy to please. Ha, ha, smug Chiyu. What are you so proud of? My stubbornness kicked in again. So, while Chiyu got up to answer a phone call by the window, I directed my little airplane to charge towards him. Charge, aim for the back of the enemy's head, but Chiyu seemed to sense it and suddenly turned around. Startled, I swerved, and the plane ended up hitting Chiyu in the chest. Ouch. Even though the phone at Chiyu's ear wasn't hung up yet, he still played along, clutching his chest and laughing indulgently. You've hit my heart. Damn, it's not that I underestimated him, it's just that the enemy was too cunning, resorting to such charming tactics. As I was pondering how to retaliate, the office door suddenly swung open, and Chiyu, quick as a flash, hung up the phone and grabbed the paper airplane that was still in the air. Then, a bodyguard walked in, reporting that the young lady in the villa was refusing to eat. I don't care how you do it, just make her eat. She's too thin, she needs to gain some weight. In front of others, Chiyu didn't hide his concern for the young lady at all. Men, I looked around and saw a wind chime hanging nearby. Angrily, I shook it until it jingled loudly. What's going on? There's no wind. The bodyguard looked puzzled at the self-ringing wind chime, then at his young master, who suddenly started laughing inexplicably, feeling a bit eerie. Young master, it's nothing. Chiyu finally managed to stop laughing, his eyes affectionately on me, just a little jealous ghost. However, Chiyu had underestimated the young lady. Seeing that Chiyu was ignoring her, she chose to smash a porcelain bowl and attempt suicide by slashing her wrists. Of course, she didn't succeed and was immediately taken to the hospital by the servants. When Chiyu arrived at the hospital, the anger on his face scared me a bit. What are you all doing? Didn't I tell you to watch her 24 hours a day and not let her hurt herself? After shouting this, the patient in the bed, Zhu Mengmeng, conveniently woke up just then, and Chiyu immediately went over to her. Seeing the wrist wounds from her suicide attempt, a flicker of pain clearly passed for Chiyu's eyes. Chiyu, you're finally here, Zhu Mengmeng said weakly, but the defiance in her eyes was clear to me. It seemed she was sure that by harming herself, Chiyu would appear. Take better care of yourself. Don't do anything foolish again, Chiyu said, just as she expected. Despite his anger, he couldn't bring himself to scold her. If something happened to you, where would I find another face so similar to Chi? Seeing this, Zhu Mengmeng bit her lip in anger. He closed his eyes and stopped talking, and there I was, watching the scene unfold, silently sighing to myself. Isn't it true that body double literature never fades? Even I, the real deal, find it torturous to watch. After that day, Chiyu paid even more attention to Zhu Mengmeng. He even started bringing her along occasionally when he went out. Over time, everyone in the circle gradually became aware of Zhu Mengmeng's existence. I watched all this unfold, internally panicking. Fool, do you think the plot isn't moving fast enough? Keep taking her out and soon the male lead and my father will come knocking. That day, Chiyu drank a bit too much at a dinner party, even though it was late at night. He insisted his bodyguard take him to the villa where Zhu Mengmeng lived. I followed behind him, furious and wanting to curse. What do a lone man and a single woman plan to do in the middle of the night? I knew you, Chiyu, were up to no good. It was very late when we got to the villa. Everyone was asleep, so the bodyguard laid Chiyu on the couch, then headed to the kitchen to make some sobering soup. But Chiyu, restless as ever, struggled to go upstairs to see Zhu Mengmeng. Zhu Mengmeng's room was next to the one I used to live in. Chiyu staggered upstairs, and I followed, worried he might accidentally fall. When we reached the second floor, passing by my room, Chiyu stopped, staring at the wind chime at the door, looking lost. Yochi, he called out, right here. I immediately responded, hearing my voice. Chiyu turned around, puzzled, looking at me, who was now a ghost. It's so late. Why aren't you sleeping in your room? You think I wouldn't if I could. Annoyed. I managed to force a smile. Because I'm dead. Oh, right. Chiyu seemed to suddenly remember, his eyes instantly welling up. You're already dead, he said it as if overwhelmed by sadness, his tears nearly falling. All right, I'll let you sleep in my room today, okay? I really couldn't stand seeing Chiyu look so pitiful, okay? Chiyu immediately stopped crying. Quite the actor, pushing open the room door. Everything inside was unchanged. The desk and the bed were just as I left them. Apparently someone had been cleaning regularly. All right, it's getting late. You should go to sleep, okay, Chi. You obediently prepared to lie down on my bed. Take off your shoes, okay? Cover yourself with the blanket, okay? Close your eyes and sleep, okay? Watching Chiyu with his eyes closed lying on the bed, I could only hope the bodyguard downstairs would realize Chiyu was missing and come up to find him. Yochi, what is it? Can't you stay still even in your sleep? I'm scared. Chiyu, with his eyes still closed, frowned slightly in distress. Scared of what? You're not even afraid of ghosts. What else is there to fear? I leaned in closer to him suddenly. Chiyu opened his eyes and sat up, facing me as I floated towards him, caught off guard. We were mere millimeters apart, eyes locked on each other. This was a kiss through a soul, unable to touch me. Chiyu's lips overlapped directly with mine, yet, oblivious to the reality, he even unconsciously licked his lips. I can't kiss you, he blinked twice. Then the sense of grievance returned. What are you feeling aggrieved about? I quickly stepped back a few paces, looking at Chiyu, feeling both angry and helpless. Can't you just sleep peacefully? Why can't you even leave the ghosts alone? Chiyu just laughed at this, because, he deliberately drew out his words, his eyes twinkling like stars as he looked at me. I have ghosts in my heart. Chiyu had fallen asleep, but I couldn't sleep anymore, though ghosts don't need to sleep. But surely no ghost twists and turns in bed like a maggot at night, right? Just as I was vigorously twisting, the door was cautiously pushed open. I looked up to see Zhu Mengmeng from next door, probably woken by the noise Chiyu made earlier when he came upstairs. She closed the door and walked softly to the bed, looking at Chiyu. What was she going to do? I saw the struggle in her eyes and a sense of foreboding welled up within me. Suddenly, Zhu Mengmeng stealthily pulled out a dinner knife from her pocket, likely hidden during dinner when the servants weren't paying attention. The moment she pressed the knife against Chiyu's throat, my heart leaped, the gloom around us deepened instantly, and I was even prepared to turn into a vengeful spirit. Yochi, Chiyu murmured unconsciously in his sleep. This not only interrupted Zhu Mengmeng but also snapped me back to reality. The knife clattered to the floor. I had never seen Zhu Mengmeng like this before. In the original story, Zhu Mengmeng was brave, kind, and pure as a typical Mary Sue heroine, but the Zhu Mengmeng standing before me now, though her face was familiar, her eyes were icy cold, filled with jealousy and distortion. Zhuyochi, she slowly pronounced my name even though she couldn't see me. The chill in her tone made me shiver. Since you're already dead, can you not be so present? I thought after so long, he would have fallen for me by now. But he's still thinking of you. Why, you're already dead, yet he still likes you. What do I lack compared to you? I could no longer hear the rest clearly, as I stared blankly at Chiyu on the bed, murmuring my name, the gathering gloom slowly dissipating. Look, Chiyu, you've succeeded. You've even changed the plot, making the heroine fall for you as well. But what should I do, Chiyu? What should I do? The next day, when Chiyu woke up, he subconsciously searched for my presence in the room. Seeing me hidden behind the wall painting, he smiled and hoarsely greeted me. Morning. However, this obviously led to a misunderstanding by Zhu Mengmeng, who had just brought in porridge. Morning, she smiled at Chiyu on the bed, drunk the night before. Early in the morning, a man and a woman alone in a room, the woman cooking porridge for the man. An ambiguous atmosphere instantly spread throughout the room. Only Chiyu could see me, so in Zhu Mengmeng's eyes, it was Chiyu waking up in the morning, seeing her and greeting her with a smile. Well, I'm not sour, I'm fine. Why are you here? Chiyu clearly didn't expect the bodyguards to have let Zhu Mengmeng through, because Chiyu had been keeping Zhu Mengmeng close to him frequently lately. Even the bodyguards had assumed Zhu Mengmeng was Chiyu's new love. Moreover, since Zhu Mengmeng looked so much like me, anyone who had seen me knew Chiyu was using Zhu Mengmeng as a substitute. They were paid by Chiyu to serve him, so of course, they would satisfy the small quirk of their employer. So in the morning, after Mengmeng boldly volunteered to take care of Chiyu, the bodyguard immediately agreed. This careless attitude towards the employer's safety is also influenced by the protagonist's halo. I see you're drunk. I wanted to take care of you, Mengmeng said as she lifted the bowl of porridge she was holding and asked with a smile. I made some porridge. Would you like some? No need. Chiyu coldly refused without a second thought, then got up and left the bed. Next time don't bother about me. There will be servants in the morning to take care of me. Your hands are too delicate for such tasks. What does it mean to be outwardly cold but warm-hearted? Mingming's expression, initially a bit awkward, turned shy after hearing his last remark. Where do I have the delicacy you speak of? I can still manage to cook porridge. You would never normally do such things. Chiyu interrupted her bluntly. Wow, Chiyu, when did you start watching Empresses in the Palace behind my back? You've mastered acting like the noble ladies, I thought, watching as the heroine's expression grew awkward. With a casual wave of my hand, a gust of wind knocked over the water glass on Chiyu's bedside. Clang, the glass fell to the floor and shattered instantly. Noticing my foul mood, Chiyu quickly dropped his cold facade and resumed his usual smile. You should leave. Let the servants take care of me. Reluctantly, the heroine left, but not before casting a longing glance back at Chiyu. Chiyu, what is it? Is Juyochi really that wonderful? I clearly saw a flash of jealousy in her eyes as she asked. In a moment, I thought back to last night's Mingming. So, is this the true nature of our heroine? In the original story, it's always from the first-person perspective of the heroine, as if everyone falling for her was a given, but now, from the perspective of a supporting character, I realized that Mingming might not be as innocent as I thought. Yes, she's wonderful, came Chiyu's unhesitating voice out of Mingming's sight. Chiyu was smiling at me, hiding behind a painting, his eyes seeming to say, see, I'm complimenting you. I saw Mingming bite her lip. Then she turned and closed the door. The room fell silent again. Chi waited, but seeing that I didn't come over, he walked towards me. Yochi, he stood in front of the painting, his voice tinged with helplessness. Are you angry? Is it that obvious? 16. I don't understand. If the heroine has fallen for Chiyu, what about the male lead? I asked Chiyu. How much longer will you let her stay in my house? Do you really plan to keep her imprisoned forever? Don't worry, it won't be much longer. Chiyu reached out as if to pat my head, but remembered the last time he tried and failed to hug me, so he reluctantly withdrew his hand. Yochi, just wait a bit longer, he coaxed patiently. Wait for what? I didn't voice the question, but somehow, I felt that Chiyu was keeping something from me, something beyond the plot, something I didn't understand. Your birthday is coming soon, he changed the subject nonchalantly. Have you thought about how you want to celebrate this year? How else could I celebrate? I muttered. Chiyu, are you trying to break my heart? I'm already dead, and you're asking about my birthday. You might as well ask how I want to observe my death anniversary. I died in a tragic car accident. Not even a whole body was left to bury, only 2 months left. It was my 22nd birthday. Originally, I had planned to confess my feelings to Chiyu on that very day, but then, suddenly, I died in a car accident. At this point, there were still more than 2 years left until the main storyline began. I saw this as the inevitability of the plot. Just as Chiyu was destined to meet the female lead, the relationship between Chiyu and me was also doomed to end prematurely with my death. Such is the nature of the plot, inescapable. But now, unexpectedly, Zhu Mingming, who is the female lead, seemed to have fallen for the villain who had captured her. Why was that? 17. Before I could figure this out, something happened to Chiyu that day. Chiyu took Zhu Mingming out to an event, and on the way back, since the driver had to attend to a family emergency, Chiyu drove the car himself, unseen by Chiyu. I was secretly hiding under the backseat cushion, watching Zhu Mingming talking to Chiyu in the passenger seat, feeling a sourness bubbling inside me. As we passed through an intersection, I noticed something flash on Zhu Mingming. The very next second, our car was hit head-on by a small car coming from the right. In the moment the windshield shattered, I saw that Chiyu hadn't even had time to react. I wanted to protect him, but the shards of the broken windshield passed right through my body. Zhu Mingming was the first to throw herself on him, shielding him from most of the impact. By the time they were rushed to the hospital, Zhu Mingming's upper body was almost soaked in blood. Chiyu was still conscious, but not in great shape, although Zhu Mingming had blocked most of the impact. A few shards of glass had slashed across his cheeks, leaving several shallow cuts. Do everything you can to save her. I want her without a single scar. Do you hear? I heard Chiyu's voice, tinged with panic. I wanted to tell Chiyu not to worry. After all, she is the female lead and wouldn't come to harm, but somehow, I just couldn't say it. Over the years, the only person who could make Chiyu this anxious had always been me. Now, Zhu Mingming was another 18 and Zhu Mingming was rushed into surgery. Watching Chiyu sitting outside the operating room, I sighed and silently floated in front of him. You, don't worry, she'll be fine. You're here. How did you get here? Chiyu was somewhat surprised to see me, then smiled. Didn't we agree that you'd stay home? Hospitals are too chaotic, full of newly departed souls. You should go back. I won't. I'll stay with you. I shook my head. Chiyu, I feel like you've been hiding something from me lately. What is it? Chiyu thought I was just being needy, his voice growing even softer. I haven't had much time to spend with you recently, but don't worry, I'll be free soon, and then I'll be by your side every day. I'm not talking about that. Seeing him play dumb, I got a bit angry. You're definitely hiding something from me. Chiyu, we've known each other for so many years, you can't fool me. So, what am I hiding from you? Chiyu looked at me as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. Who knows, you're probably shifting your affections to someone else. And keeping secrets wouldn't be surprising. I admit I was a bit emotional in My response, Chiyu was clearly amused by my sarcastic tone and was just about to respond when the door to the operating room opened. Who is the family member of the patient? I am. Chiyu stepped forward. The patient is no longer in life-threatening condition, and most of her injuries are superficial. With proper care, she should not have any prominent scars. Moving forward, she should pay attention to her diet. After giving meticulous advice, the doctor finished bandaging Zhu Mingming, who was then wheeled out. The moment I saw Zhu Mingming, I instinctively thought of the flash I had seen on her body in the car earlier, considering that today, coincidentally, the driver had an emergency and Chiyu had to drive himself, resulting in an accident. Something seemed off. Chiyu seemed to have realized this too. When Zhu Mingming woke up in the hospital room, the first thing she saw was Chiyu's expressionless face. I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be capable of this, Chiyu said coldly, a stark contrast to his usual tone with Zhu Mingming. Did you think that by staging a car accident and getting me injured, I wouldn't pay attention to you? No, that's not it. I didn't. Zhu Mingming tried to explain but was immediately cut off by Chiyu. I don't care whether you intended to harm me or not, but you should never have let your body get hurt. Chiyu gently caressed her right cheek, where there was a cut from broken glass. It wasn't very deep, but it was uncertain if it would leave a scar. It took me so long to find a body that looks so much like Yoshi. If it's damaged, where am I supposed to find another? Chiyu, what do you mean by that? Not just the protagonist, but even I frowned at his words. What I mean, Zhu Mingming, is that you shouldn't think about conspiring with outsiders to play tricks. Saying this, he withdrew his hand and let out a cold laugh. And about your childhood friend, he really went out of his way for you this time. It's just uncertain whether the Song family behind him would tolerate him giving up his bright future for a poor girl. Zhu Mingming's face turned very awkward in an instant. It has nothing to do with Songchen. It was my idea. I'm sorry, Chiyu. I didn't mean to harm you. I just wanted you to get hurt. I wanted to save you. Chiyu laughed heartily as if he had heard a joke. Save me, Zhu Mingming. What are you really thinking? Can't you just dislike and reject me like before? Or is it that you've fallen in love with me? I don't know how to describe my feelings at this moment. Logically, Chiyu should have been happy to know that the protagonist liked him, but why was he so aggressively confrontational just now? Yoshi, suddenly, Chiyu's voice came. What are you thinking? We need to go back. Chiyu, I have a question for you. As I spoke, I pointed through the glass door of the hospital room at Zhu Mingming. Aren't you happy knowing she likes you? Why should I be happy? Chiyu's tone sounded genuinely puzzled. Then why did you bring her back and treat her so well? I brought her back because she looks like you. Yes, she looks like me, and since I'm gone, isn't it good for you to be with her? No. Chiyu suddenly moved closer, stopping less than 10 centimeters from me, his gaze intensely serious. Yoshi, no one can replace you. You are unique. Why did you bring her back? After all the circling around, we return to this crucial question. Indeed, if you always say you love me, why did you bring Zhu Mingming back? Because she looks like you, Chiyu said, pointing at the female protagonist inside the glass window, a smile on his lips as if he was sharing some amusing toy with me. Look, doesn't that body look a lot like you? Do you like it? What? I didn't catch on immediately. Chiyu looked at me with a smile, his eyes twinkling. Despite it being May, I felt a hint of almost naive malice in his words. If you like, should I snatch her away for you? Seeing me stunned in disbelief, Chiyu burst out laughing. Why are you so startled? He laughed like a child who had just played a prank. I'm just joking. After that day, Chiyu became even busier. Several times he went out behind my back, and I secretly followed him, seeing him meet with a bunch of strange people and stay in a small room for an entire afternoon. Strangely, every time I tried to eavesdrop on their conversations, an irresistible force kept me out. I wanted to ask him if his previous words were just a joke, but each time I saw the exhaustion on his face, the words I had prepared felt impossible to voice. It must have been a joke. I lied to myself internally. Just assume it was a joke. Resurrection. How could that be possible? After all, she is the female protagonist. Time flew by, and before I knew it, my birthday was approaching. However, the day before my birthday, sudden news came from the hospital that Zhu Mingming had been taken away by a group of intruders. At the same time, Chiyu received an invitation from the Zhu family, celebrating their discovery of the long-lost second Miss Zhu. Zhu Mingming's origins were ultimately discovered by my father. The group that rescued her was likely the male protagonist and my father's men. How ridiculous. Chiyu looked at the invitation in his hand, his face showing scorn. What second miss? A bastard child, and they dare to compare her to you. Chiyu, you knew. I felt awkward. Looking at the familiar handwriting on the invitation, I opened my mouth but didn't know what to say. Thinking back to the funeral day, my father was heartbreakingly sad. Anyone could see that he was genuinely grieving his daughter's loss, but now, just 2 months later, he seemed eager to introduce his other daughter to everyone. Is this the irresistible force of the plot? The dinner was scheduled for the next evening. As Chiyu got dressed and ready to leave, I darted into the pocket of his suit jacket. I heard Chiyu's somewhat helpless voice from above. If you don't want to go, then don't. No, I want to go. I said from inside the pocket, my voice muffled. Otherwise, if you go alone and they bully you because they have more people, what will you do? Although I can't help you, I can still scare them by causing a scene. Chiyu laughed, his chest trembling with laughter, and I felt it too inside the pocket. Why is Yoichi so cute? You only just realized. When we arrived at the Zhu family's home, the scene was bustling with activity. I watched as Zhu Mengmeng was surrounded and celebrated by the crowd at the center. Compared to 2 months ago, she had transformed completely, dressed in a gown. Standing there, she truly resembled an innocent princess unaware of worldly affairs. I keenly recognized the light blue dress she wore. It was the one I had custom-ordered months in advance, planning to wear it at the birthday party to confess my feelings to Chiyu. And the sapphire necklace around her neck was the birthday gift I had talked about wanting with my dad 2 months ago. These things, which were originally mine, were now adorning Zhu Mengmeng. She really managed to take my place. Don't be angry. Chiyu, sensing my unhappiness, patted his pocket and cooed softly, I'll buy you something even better in the future. The male lead and my dad were clearly wary of Chiyu's arrival, but this was precisely the purpose of hosting this banquet, to let Chiyu know that Zhu Mengmeng was not a backgroundless orphan. She was the second young mistress of the Zhu family, the beloved of the eldest young master of the Song family, not a mere plaything that Chiyu could easily replace and imprison. However, Chiyu didn't care about these details at all. I never expected that Uncle Zhu also had his romantic youth, Chiyu said with a radiant smile, making it seem as if he were just reminiscing with my dad. Just earlier, someone mentioned that Uncle Zhu, after being widowed for many years, never remarried for her sake. Now, it seems like a joke. The term of address changed from uncle to elder. Uncle, he was standing up for me, suddenly. I felt a bit emotional. In the past, Chiyu wouldn't dare speak to my dad like this. I stealthily peeked out of my pocket and saw an awkward expression on my dad's face. At that moment, the male lead walked over with Zhu Mengmeng. It's been a long time, Young Master Chi, Songchen greeted with a smile, expertly hiding a hint of disdain for Chiyu at the bottom of his eyes. Zhu Mengmeng, meanwhile, looked at Chiyu with a complex expression in her eyes. The three of them standing together formed a classic love triangle, a scene straight out of a drama involving the male and female leads and the villain who loves the female lead. It really has been a long time, Young Master Song, Chi responded without a hint of embarrassment. The last time we met was when you had just been brought back to the Song family, wasn't it? It's been less than half a year, and you've already impressed me a lot, Young Master Song. Where? I naturally can't compare to Young Master Chi, Songchen responded, his smile forced upon hearing Chiyu's words. Recently, Mengmeng has been under the great care of Young Master Chi. I've heard that Young Master Chi and Miss Ju have been childhood sweethearts, but since Miss Ju has only just passed away not long ago, surely Young Master Chi wouldn't move on so quickly, would he? Of course not, Chi replied with a slight smile, but I wonder, Young Master Song, if you have the confidence to convince your family to agree to your union with a love child. Upon hearing this, the faces of the people opposite him instantly soured. What are you saying? You, my dad frowned, seemingly upset by Chiyu's way of referring to Zhu Mengmeng. Mengmeng is also my daughter, the second young mistress of the Zhu family. I know you loved Yoichi, but since Yoichi has passed away, we who are alive should look forward. Mengmeng has suffered a lot outside these years, and my heart aches for her. No matter who her birth mother is, she is my most beloved biological daughter. His words were heartfelt, even moving Songchen, who was listening, but Chi seemed to hear a huge joke. The way Uncle Chi talks, it's as if Zhu Mengmeng has been greatly wronged. My dad's eyes flickered, about to speak, but Chiyu had already burst into laughter. What about my Yoichi then? Does she deserve to die? As he spoke, he glanced at the dress Zhu Mengmeng was wearing, his smile turning somewhat sarcastic. But why should it be that way? Just because she died, her dress is now on Zhu Mengmeng. The necklace she wanted now hangs from Zhu Mengmeng's neck, and even her beloved father has now become Zhu Mengmeng's. She was also a beloved little princess. Why should she suffer this indignity just because she died? With every word he uttered, Zhu Mengmeng's expression grew uglier, until finally, she couldn't hold back and interrupted him. Enough, Chiyu, I know that in your heart. I'll never compare to Zhu Yoichi. She looked at Chiyu, her smile somehow glaring, but she's already dead, gone forever. Yes, I might be an illegitimate daughter, but I am also a daughter to my father, the second miss of the Zhu family, and I too have the right to pursue a happy life. Me, why does this sound so familiar? You only lost your life, but the heroine lost her happy life. Yes, this sounds like a classic old tale. Indeed, the deceased cannot be brought back, Young Master Chi. You should mourn and move on, Songchen added, seeing the situation. No matter how much you miss Zhu, she can't come back. The one alive now is the second miss of the Zhu family, Zhu Mengmeng. So, Young Master Chi, please, mourn and move on. Chi looked at Songchen without saying a word. The two stared at each other for a few seconds, the tension in the air almost palpable. Just then, a servant suddenly came to announce that the old lady of the Chi family had arrived. Chi blinked, smiling as if nothing had happened. Excuse me, an elder from my family has arrived. I must take my leave. After saying this, he took one last look at Xu Mengmeng. Miss Xu Mengmeng is also welcome to visit my villa anytime. I hid in my pocket, listening as Qiyu greeted the old lady of the Qi family and chatted briefly. As he was about to leave, the old lady stopped him and handed him an amulet. I got this from the temple a few days ago, the old lady said, looking at Qiyu with a loving and pained expression. Yochi was also a child I watched grow up, I know. It's hard for you since she passed away, but life must go on. We need to look forward. I understand, Grandma. In front of his grandmother, Qiyu smiled as he accepted the amulet, then, turning around, he casually stuffed the amulet into the pocket of a security guard's jacket as he walked out of the banquet hall. Keep it safe. Don't lose it. Remind me to bring it next time I return to the old house. Yes. Yen Master, Qiyu, you're being disobedient again. I poked my head out of the pocket in the car. What's wrong? I didn't throw it away, did I? Qiyu looked out of the car window at the brightly lit Zhu family villa, his tone nonchalant. Grandma means well, and although superstition is not to be encouraged, you've seen ghosts, haven't you? Maybe it's better to believe a little. I do believe. Then why did you give the amulet to the bodyguard? I believe in spirits, but I don't like to obey, he said, turning his head to look at me. Besides, you saw what just happened. If even I had forgotten you, who else would remember you? Meeting his gaze, I inexplicably felt a shiver in my heart, so I shifted my gaze away, not daring to look him in the eye. But people are forgetful, aren't they? I didn't know if I was making excuses for them or for myself. After all, that's just how the plot goes. Zhu Mengmeng is the female protagonist. She will take my place just like in the original story, and according to the original story, my childhood friend Qiyu will also forget about me and fall for her instead. The carriage fell silent for a few seconds. Yochi, I've always wanted to ask you. His gaze was intense as he looked at me. Why didn't you choose to be reincarnated? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Seeing this, Qiyu suddenly laughed. You see, everyone has their selfish sides. Your selfishness kept you from reincarnating. His eyes were gentle. And my selfishness is not wanting to forget you. Indeed, why didn't I choose to be reincarnated? Isn't it because I, too, have my selfish reasons? Up to this point, the story has been following the original script. The only difference is that the antagonist didn't fall in love with the female lead. On the way home, Qiyu fell asleep in the car, looking at the dark circles under his eyes. I knew that my time was running out. Logically, a ghost shouldn't stay in the world of the living for too long. Qiyu has been sustaining me with his own life force so I could stay in this world for so long. That's also why only Qiyu can see me during my time in the world of the living. I've been almost always by Chiyu's side. Over time, Chiyu's complexion has visibly worsened, and his body has become more easily fatigued. Every morning, his face is paler than the day before. Although I've been very careful in controlling the yin energy emanating from me, Chiyu's surroundings are still invariably chilly. Plus, as he often talks to thin air, even the bodyguards started to think their yin master might be bewitched. I know I don't have much time left. I can't really stay by Chiyu's side forever. His body will eventually give out, and since Qiyu hasn't fallen for the female lead, his fate shouldn't be as tragic as in the original story. As long as he can live well, I can leave with peace of mind. When we got home and the bodyguards helped Qiyu to his room, he still groggily opened his eyes, instinctively searching for my figure. Seeing this, I voluntarily shook the wind chimes by the window. Only then did Qiyu obediently lie down in bed. After Qiyu fell asleep, I floated beside the bed, watching his peaceful sleeping face, and my mind, for the first time in a long while, drifted to the past. When I first crossed over, I was only 7 years old. The first time I was brought to the Qi family, I was curious about this young, paranoid antagonist, such a young boy, the same age as me, yet his eyes revealed a maturity that didn't match his age. Clearly, Qiyu wasn't curious about me. Even at the beginning, his attitude towards me could hardly be called friendly. No matter. I understood. How could you call it a paranoid antagonist without a bit of character? So, I took the initiative and stuck with Qiyu for more than a decade. An entanglement lasts. In high school, as the girls around me became aware of their feelings, each secretly penned love letters to boys they fancied, slipping them into the boys' desks during lunch when the classroom was empty. One day after school, as I walked home with Qiyu, he suddenly said to me, "Yo Qi, I received a love letter today." "Who from?" I blurted out before my brain could catch up, my heart tightening instantly. Qiyu glanced at me, a puzzled look in his eyes. Realizing my reaction was a bit over the top, I quickly explained, "Qiyu, don't get me wrong, I just think we're still young, and puppy love isn't good. It could affect our grades." At that moment, I remembered Qiyu was top of our class, and I found myself at a loss for words. Anyway, it's just, puppy love really isn't good. I struggled to justify my words. And finally, I closed my eyes and gave up. Anyway, I won't engage in puppy love, and neither should you. Got it, Chiyu? Chiyu just looked at me, and after a moment, a sly smile appeared in his eyes. Got it, me, who let the cat out of the bag? Oh, it was me. A few steps later, Chiyu suddenly asked, Yochi, have you ever received a love letter? No, I mumbled. Why not? What do you mean, why not? Nobody likes me, that's why. Oh, what does "oh" mean? The next morning, groggy, I went to my desk, ready to take out my textbooks for morning study, and accidentally pulled out a pink envelope from my desk, faintly scented, with "For Yochi" from written on it. Opening the envelope, there was a line of handwriting that looked somewhat familiar. I like you. The note was unsigned, yet this simple, blunt statement made me laugh during morning study. Who would have thought that the future antagonist could have such an adorable moment? This scene never appeared in the original text. It's a memory uniquely belonging to 18-year-old Chiyu and 18-year-old Yochi. Just when I thought the story was about to end in a different way, 3 days later, the day before I was supposed to disappear, Chiyu returned with the unconscious Zhu Mengmeng. He had kidnapped the heroine again, but this time, he wasn't planning to imprison her as a substitute. He said everything was ready, and he could finally bring me back to life. Only then did I realize he wasn't joking. Before, when we returned to the villa I once lived in, it had been set up with arrays and various artifacts. At the center was a box of ashes. Chiyu had planned everything long ago. Of course, the ceremony didn't go smoothly, because the male lead had followed us. Not only did he follow, but he also brought quite a few people. They surrounded the entire villa. Seeing Chiyu clearly outnumbered, I almost cried in desperation. Run, Chiyu. Don't be foolish. That's the female lead. If the female lead dies, the plot will collapse. Although I also wish to be revived, taking over the female lead's body is absolutely unacceptable, right? The heroine's halo wouldn't allow it, right? I won't. Chiyu stubbornly held the urn in his hands, looking at the glowing formation on the ground and the female lead lying at the center of it. I will definitely revive you. Outside the door, the sounds of fighting continued incessantly. Chiyu's bodyguards were indeed formidable, but the people brought by the male lead included not only those from the Song family but also from the Zhu family. Even if Chiyu's bodyguards could fight 100 men each, they couldn't overcome the male lead's halo. You fool, why are you so stubborn? Don't you understand? This is the plot. You can't fight it. I blurted out excitedly, forgetting all about keeping it a secret. Strangely, Chiyu showed no surprise at the mention of the plot. Why can't it be fought against? Chiyu looked at me, his eyes full of defiance. Why should she be the protagonist? Why am I destined to fall in love with her? He knew about the plot. He knew that according to the plot, he would fall in love with the female lead. Why? Do you know these things? I felt like I vaguely guessed something but didn't dare to fully believe it. When did you learn about the existence of Zhu Mengmeng? The night before your accident. I had a strange dream, Chiyu said. Suddenly, the continuous noise of fighting outside seemed to quiet in that instant, and I could only hear Chiyu's voice as his lips moved. I dreamed of many things in the future. In the dream, half a year after your death, I met Zhu Mengmeng at a banquet, who looked somewhat like you. She resembled you, and at first, I was merely fond of her because of that face, but later, I gradually fell in love with her, even forgetting your existence, obsessively infatuated with her. I can't describe that feeling. It was really strange, as if, even though you were in my heart, the name that came out of my mouth was hers. It was like an irresistible force, forcibly erasing your existence, transferring all my feelings for you to Zhu Mengmeng. I don't believe I could fall in love with someone else. The person in the dream, in my view, was not me at all, just a puppet set up to fall in love with Zhu Mengmeng. I can't stand it. Someone taking your place. As his words fell, the villa's door was finally broken down, and Songchen led a group of people rushing in at that moment. The formation on the ground suddenly burst into brilliant light, and I, who was nearly disappearing, was swept into the formation. The second before I disappeared, I saw Chiyu being forcefully pinned to the ground by Song Chen's bodyguards, yet his gaze was still filled with hope, looking towards the center of the formation. 28. I died, and I lived again, but not in the body of the female lead, but in the body of a comatose patient in a hospital. Ugh. Chiyu went through so much trouble to kidnap the original female lead to revive me, and it still failed. That's why they say the original plot cannot be changed, right? Now, seeing Zhu Mengmeng waking up, he's probably going to cry. 29. In the first year of my revival, I was only slightly conscious, overhearing the nurse taking care of me and others gossiping that the proud young master of the Qi family seemed to have gone mad lately, even kidnapping Miss Zhu of the Zhu family, trying to perform some feudal sorcery. In the end, the sorcery failed, and he ended up driving himself mad, now just aimlessly holding an urn and muttering. I was really anxious. Hey, did you see that? The patient's fingers just moved. 30. In the second year of my revival, my gossip nurse told me again, Miss Zhu of the Zhu family is going to be engaged to the eldest young master of the Song family. These two were childhood sweethearts. His expression changed drastically, a mix of shock and recognition flashing across his features. He stared at me, his eyes wide as he took in my appearance, which seemed to stir deep memories Within him, "Is it really you?" he finally managed to utter, his voice filled with disbelief and a tinge of hope. "Yes, it's me," I replied, a gentle smile playing on my lips, warmed by the familiarity of his astonishment. For a moment, he stood frozen, his gaze fixed on me as if trying to anchor himself back to reality. Then, with a hesitant yet determined step, he approached the car door, his hands slightly trembling as he opened it. The distance between us, once filled with years of separation and unsaid words, was now just a thin air that dissipated as he extended his hand to help me out of the car. Our fingers touched, and a familiar warmth enveloped us, bridging the gap of our long separation. As he wheeled me towards our unknown destination, the silence around us was comfortable, filled with the unspoken understanding and shared memories of a past life. The afternoon sun cast long shadows on the ground, mirroring the journey we were about to embark on together. Once again, tears momentarily filled his eyes. "Why are you crying?" Seeing him like this, I couldn't help but want to laugh. "Aren't you the one who isn't even afraid of ghosts? Are you scared of the dead coming back to life?" Yet, Chi just stared at me with those reddened eyes, unmoving, as if fearing that I would disappear if he blinked. "Speaking of which, what's going on with you?" I continued to tease. "My handwriting has changed because I couldn't exert strength in my hand, and yet you guessed it right." "How did you do that?" "Yeah, why is that?" Chi suddenly laughed too. Then, he leaned down, just like he had countless times before, reaching out his hand in a futile gesture, and gently caressed my face, leaning in to place a kiss on my forehead. "Maybe because I've been longing to see you." From there, everything proceeded just like in the original story, only this time, the defeated villain finally got to see his beloved once again.